Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. I hope you're enjoying the holiday, and a free special preview or review. I don't even know what this is. A special edition of Hot or Not with Jim from Weird Science for Thanksgiving out on YouTube as well. How you doing, Jim? Happy
lovely.
Thanksgiving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you. I don't think I'm going to be celebrating much of a Thanksgiving, but yeah, hey, and that's it. Everybody can be thankful that you're giving this out for free. There you go. We could have that. My wife has already walked into the room shaking her head at me. I don't know what's going on, but that's Thanksgiving
she have a bad
here.
Opinion of me because of this?
No, it's me. I think that she was looking for medicine that I kind of have to hide, so I didn't put it out yet. And she's pissed, because it's for tomorrow and she needs it now for some reason. So yeah, just everything's normal here.
So you're
no
not going to eat your
Thanksgiving.
plate of Thanksgiving foods when it shows up?
No, I don't even know if that's going to happen. There's been talk that the kids may not even do that. I don't know.
They might not even bring you back a plate.
No,
their dogs.
They might end up even going out to eat somewhere now. I don't.
They're going to the
understand.
Olive Garden?
They might be. They might be going to like the Golden Corral. I was like, all of a sudden it changed, but yet we're still here watching the dogs.
Once
the
they
dogs
all
are going
realized
nuts.
we didn't invite any adults to the party, so we're gonna have to cook our own food.
Yeah, I think that might be what the case may have been. Like, oh my, we don't have time, or we didn't count on this. So I don't know what's going on. I just
What do you
know
mean
that
you don't have
I'm
the
always
turkey?
in trouble.
You're on turkey duty.
Yeah.
Why would I have the turkey? It's your house.
Exactly. I was going to make this crazy like turkey bowl, almost like at the KFC, those bowls, or if you know of Wawa
some
in
mashed
our
potatoes,
area.
some stuffing, some sweet potatoes.
I have it
a
all.
little turkey on there, gravy on top.
I have it all that I can cook it up and do that. I'm not feeling well as we go through this. I am very dizzy right now, so I'm trying to hold on, but I'm going to probably eat that and watch some football later. So it'll be kind of cool.
Very nice. For the folks out there that are joining us on Thanksgiving on the YouTube that are not familiar with Hot or Not, every Thursday on the Patreon, Jim and I sit down and we talk about all the new releases from Marvel, DC, and indie comic books. We talk about the stuff that's really good, the stuff that's really bad, everything in between, and we kind of try and steer you in the right direction with a little bit more of a comprehensive overview of the publishers and the stuff that came out.
Exactly. I do apologize. This is like the time I didn't realize this was going to be so special and out and about in public, and I ended up not getting as much of the reading as I usually do for each week, because usually we do end up spending over 2 hours talking about this stuff. I don't know. We'll try to get there today. I don't know. I'm worried.
And also at the end, we do a special thing called the Dad Corner, where we talk about being a dad. My kids are between 2 and 8. Yours are between 17 and like 29. Mm-hmm. And we have very different perspectives on being a dad of all boys.
Yeah, you like it, and I don't. I'm worn down by now, and I've been through the war. And you're just being deployed, I would say. You're just going out there and starting that battle. You're at the point where your kids just look up to you and think you're the greatest thing ever. My kids are way past that. So that's when the trouble starts.
But that's the last segment of the show. First up, we need to talk about Marvel Comics, Jim.
Yep.
Not a huge week for them. They did have a debut for Carnage #1, Daredevil Black Armor #1, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, Battle World #1. We also got issues of ASM, Captain Marvel, Incredible Hulk, Immortal X-Men, Iron Man, Uncanny Spider-Man, Wolverine. I think there might have been an Avengers Inc. in there.
Yeah.
So I did not read Carnage #1. I don't think Torun Grunbeck is a particularly good writer. And I don't really like Carnage that much, so I actually didn't check that one out. But I know you did.
Yeah.
Should people be checking that one out?
Here's the thing. The stuff that's been going on with the symbiotes, and the funny thing is I've been pretty symbioted out. I think a lot of people have, because we just had that summer of Carnage, summer event, but that kind of came and went. I didn't think many people were paying attention to it. And the things that have been going on with the symbiotes and with Carnage, you actually do get kind of maybe a return to classic deal. You end up, Cletus Cassidy is involved, but not in the way that I was hoping. But overall, I agree with you with Torun Grunbeck. Torun Grunbeck is okay. Maybe a nice enough fill-in writer for some book, maybe an issue or two. But as a full-out writer, I don't know. This starts off, and you can't have a #1 issue of Carnage have it be boring. And I thought this was pretty boring overall. I was disappointed by it. But if you are a Carnage fan, I always say check out the number ones for yourself. But if you were, putting a gun to my head here, I would tell you maybe wait, see how the first trade goes, see how people are talking about it, because I don't think that people are going to be talking much about it. And Torin Grumbach right now has taken that Ram V place. Ram V was doing the stuff with Al Ewing. And whether or not you like Ram V or not, Torin Grumbach's not Ram V, but it just feels mid right now. Even the stuff I haven't been reading, even Venom, because I've been bored with that. So I would say it's not a hot. It's kind of that mid deal that we've had a lot of lately.
Now the other two debuts are like those throwback issues that I've been really enjoying for the last 18 months, maybe 24 months. Peter David was absolutely slaying it with Maestro, Symbiote Spider-Man. He did Joe Fix and all that stuff. Obviously, he's not able to do any of that right now. So they're bringing in some more obscure writers from more obscure runs that I don't think a lot of people want to revisit. We get Daredevil Black Armor #1 from DG Chichester, whatever his name is. I've never read this run, so I was coming into this thing completely unaware of really what was going on here. The art from Netho Diaz is kind of all right. You can see he's inspired by Greg Capullo, and you can definitely get the feeling that Greg Capullo would be a fantastic Daredevil artist. But the story itself, I couldn't get into it. I was like, I had Matt
problems
Murdock,
too.
Being a blind lawyer is almost the perfect cover to keep tabs on the underworld in Hell's Kitchen. But now he's made up a fake name and he's acting like he's a con man. But also at the same time that he's on the streets, he's giving out all this great advice that's helping people with their legal matters. It's like, wow, don't blow your cover here, pal.
Yeah. It's a weird play, and I haven't read Chichester's run either. So when this was coming out, I was kind of excited about it. It looked kind of cool. Like you said, the art, it is like a throwback style looking art, kind of cool. So I ended up kind of doing a little bit of deal, seeing that Fall from Grace run. That's one of the stories that Chichester had done. And in the meantime, when I'm looking these things up, I get tons of stuff like not great, my worst run. Like, not many people like this run that Chichester did, it seems, from what I looked up. So I'm like, but still, give it a chance. And then when I get into it, the problem is that, and well, it's no Peter David. That stuff is really good, but Peter David was able to give you a new story, but actually give you the lay of the land a bit. When you get into this, me and you both, we didn't know what was going on. And when you give these callbacks to something that came out mid-90s, there's going to be some differences. Hey, what's going on with Kingpin at that point? What's going on with Matt? And he doesn't seem to want to let you know that. And that's a weird play, even though it is taking place during a run. Let people know what is going on. Give that first issue. Give it pretty much, hey, this is what Matt. It's all over the place. You have no idea what's going on.
He's like stalking Karen.
Yeah.
Listening to her heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This creeper?
Yeah. Oh, what a creep. And then, just to throw it out there, I laughed because I thought of Doc right away. He ends up hooking up with a girl with her tarot cards. Doc's whole trigger. But even so, then you get a Kingpin that you're not sure what's going on with them. Though at the end, I made a joke when I reviewed it. Matt kind of seems to set up like a bunch of guys' deaths by ruining Kingpin's car, and then they make fun. It's all over the place. You don't really get a grip of what is happening outside of just what's happening in the issue, but what's happening in the whole universe at that point. And I think that was a misplay. I think most people who read this or are going to read it will be very confused by it. I was. I mean,
the worst part about it, though, Jim.
Yeah.
Electric Nachos does not look good in white.
No.
And it looks like she's in chemo or something.
Yeah, it looked like she's
hair.
chemo. She has no hair. She's completely bald. She's in white. Doesn't look good. And so it's weird, too, because when you see anything about this book, I know, it's very odd. So you have this whole thing, hey, we're going to get back. They really played up the idea that Chichester, these stories he wrote, but you're really, really hinging on this Black Armor. Like, that's it. That's what they went. People kind of thought that was cool. Let's go. And it just didn't play out well. It didn't play out well at all. I was disappointed. I really wanted to like it.
No, the opening conversation on the rooftop for the guy that's making the black armor is borderline hilarious that he went along with it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, fucking Sabretooth is just there fighting. I was like, where did he come from? Why is he doing this?
This goes from looks like human trafficking to a Sabretooth fight to them passing out flyers teaching people how to not pay their rent to fighting a landlord to then dropping an engine block on a new car for Kingpin that seems to be paid with legally. At the end, I was like, this is weird, but not in a good way. Not in a good. But if you are familiar with the Chichester run, even if you didn't like it, sometimes it's kind of cool to kind of go back. But if you liked it, that's fine. But I was confused the whole time. It did make me giggle a lot of times, though. I'll give you that. But I was laughing at it, not with it.
Yeah, the Creeper Matt thing was
funny. Good. Yeah. It was funny because that's like at the right at the point where you see bald in white Elektra. I'm like, I don't know what's happening with Matt here. Like he's got a weird thing going on. He's stalking his other lady. Just looks like crap. I don't know. It's very odd.
Definitely does not make me want to go back and explore the Chichester run of fucking Daredevil.
Yeah, and that's the weird play about it is if I was even a little bit intrigued, if you would have given me something of, oh, this is at a point where Matt, and I again, looking up some things, Matt had died, he came back, he thought he was his dad, people think this is another dad, but you don't get that from the issue. If I got something that kind of, oh man, this, I would go back, I would check some things out, but this is not that. It ended up making me like, I not only do not want to read this in the present, but I'm not going to waste my time going back and catching up with it.
Nah, not worth it. Now, the other number one, this is something I did plan on reading, but while I was getting ready before we started recording the show, my 2-year-old, I'm not sure what happened, but he ended up throwing like a fit, and I had to divert like 25 minutes of my time to taking care of the kid, so I wasn't able to get to a couple of comic books I planned to. So Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars Battle World #1. I like Tom DeFalco enough. Like he's not the greatest writer in the world, but he's certainly serviceable. Secret Wars is coolish or cool enough, I guess, for me. I don't know that cool. I needed to revisit it, but
no, that's the weird play. No, you didn't. I ended up on our Patreon. We have a crisis/events podcast, and when we first started, we went through that original Secret Wars, and I had a lot of fun with it again. Mm-hmm. And so when this came out, I thought, all right, and it kind of snuck up on me. I didn't even know that it was coming out. You have a 40th anniversary deal on it, so I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And it's one of those that they're trying to play, hey, this happens between panels. Sometimes they'll go as far as this happens in the margins, like that stupid game. But when I went into it, I'm like, okay, but you still have to make a little bit of sense, not just say, oh, Spidey went to get a snack, and then the Beyonders got him talking shit on the Beyonder, and then we're going to have wacky, pretty much a test. It really feels like it's nothing. And the fun play of Secret Wars, even going back now and reading it, is that idea when you know that they just did that to sell toys. So you're like, oh man, that's cool, because a lot of times it is just, ooh, this guy's going to fight this guy, and we have this vehicle. And you didn't really get, maybe some people would disagree with me, but you didn't really get that feel here. And then you got like Johnny Storm shows up, and then Hobgoblin. It's just like throwing things at it, but I wish it was a little more fun. It was not that much fun.
Well, that's a problem for a Secret Wars book.
Exactly, yeah. It looks good, and maybe it will get a little more, but it just seemed like, all right, let's do this. Let's get hey, Tom, you want to do this? What the hell? And go for it, and it just didn't have that fun factor spark that I was looking for.
So those are the debuts. As far as the stuff that's ongoing, we got new issues of. A couple of weeks ago, I did a spotlight on Incredible Hulk, and I was like, hey, this is the series from Marvel to be reading now. We got a new issue. I think it's issue number 6 this week.
It's 6, yep.
With Nick Klein returning on art.
Yeah.
And I'll still call it hot. Like, it's still a good comic book, but it's a little bit of a letdown.
It is, and I got yelled at about. I agree with what you said. I think it's the best or one of the best books at Marvel right now. I still do. This issue was a little down, but I will call the art. I said when I reviewed it, the art to me It's almost like you have like crazy blacklight posters almost each page, and it was really cool. And also the cover was awesome. Then you get in there, but you have weird, wonky things going on, and I like the idea, and I'm sure that you do too. That crazy. Oh man, I've never seen the Hulk transform from Banner to the Hulk quite like this horrific deal. But now we've got it twice in a row, kind of, and I hope that that's not every issue, because it felt wow factor the first time. This time I'm like, okay, it's disgusting, but I don't really have that wow factor, and I want the story to go beyond the Monster of the Month Club, which is what you seem to be stuck in. It's still cool, and I still enjoy it, but I thought that this, and I telling you, I got a lot of guff from people because they love it, and that's fine. And I do love the series. I just thought, all right, we're at a point where we need to pick things up, because in my mind, you're starting to get on the play of, you're on the verge of turning it into that Ghost Rider book by Ben Percy that everybody thought was cool. That kind of was that, hey, let's go to this town, let's do this monster. And I think that Philip Kennedy Johnson's better than that. And I'm going to, hope that he is going forward, because I just don't want to get bored with it. Still good, though, and Nick Klein's art's really good.
And I think they're fighting like a chupacabra or something.
That's what it looks like. That's what I said,
like
yeah.
To me, they're with like a Latino family or a Mexican family, I believe. And they end up staying with them. They're like, hey, you can't stay out at night because there's a monster out there. It's not safe here. And it turns out there's a motorcycle that this guy shows up whenever something bad shows up. And it turns out it's another Ghost Rider that we didn't know
Spirit
about.
Of vengeance,
like, how many spirits of vengeance can Marvel Comics have?
So many.
Is just sitting at this farm waiting for someone to threaten this little boy.
He's just there hanging and watching. Like, he's just there protecting this kid. The funny play, though, when I'm reading it, too, is you end up having, Banner and the girl, they're hitchhiking, they're walking, they're in Texas, and these people pick them up. Now, they know that their village seems to be like attacked by the chupacabra all the time, but yet they don't take them to the town they want to go to. Like, hey, we're going to be nice and bring you to this. I swear to God, I thought they were putting them out for like, hey, eat these guys, not us. It doesn't turn out that way. It kind of ends up with like, which is the monster? It's been that way. Like, oh, how could that be a monster when I'm the Hulk, the monster of all? But in the background, you still have that eldest story that kind of is in a bit of a stall right now. It's not really doing much, and I need to get forward with that. But again, the art's cool, and I did giggle. You ended up having out of nowhere this guy, and he's just has these visions of like killing his wife, who doesn't look like she looks like she's fused to the couch, and when she dies, they're gonna have to get like a crane in there. I giggled at that.
That was my self-insert character.
Yes, that's me.
He's driving and he sees like a couple that are happy, and then imagining running them over.
Yeah, and it's done kind of cool. It's done that horror way where like you look in the rearview mirror and there is the chupacabra deal. But we have to develop this, and it seems like this is going to be a couple parts. It's just this first part to me kind of was, not much going on. It is a little slow, but it looked great. And I trust Philip Kennedy Johnson enough to, if he's given the time, he'll tell a story. Sometimes he does like to take a little more time, and that could pay off. So I'll go with it. Even though my score on my review was a little bit lower, I still said that I liked it, and I still think people should read it. So I'm going to go hot. I'm going to go hot with it here.
Yeah, it's a good comic book. It's just not quite as good as I was hoping for, especially after the 5th issue. As far as the bad stuff, we did get the conclusion to the Wreck Rap story that completely wastes Ed and McGuinness's art.
Yep.
And it starts out in such a weird place to where Peter Parker has been swallowed by Repo, and he's like in his body, and then he gets regurgitated out, and I don't know why. It just happened because he couldn't digest Peter Parker or something.
It's that weird play that it's like a portal to limbo. It's lame. It doesn't even make sense the way that it plays out. Sense. No.
And I didn't realize this. Apparently, we were supposed to be speculating what Repo's like identity was. So he's like, "Oh, I now recognize you." I was like, "Was I supposed to be worried about this? Why does anyone care who Repo is?"
The funniest thing you say that is, when I was reading the last couple issues on our podcast and reviews, I kept saying, this is just that dude that was hanging out in his stoop, the guy who we never found anything out really about and then got eaten during the dark web. So I had the opposite deal when they ended up saying, and that's the problem. I said, was this supposed to be the big, like, he really pushed this as this, like, mind-bending, oh my God, wow moment. I can't believe it was that guy on the stoop who was collecting the money until he wasn't. And all it did to me was start wondering about, like, what was he originally collecting? Because he never did end up collecting anything. And if you remember at the beginning, Aunt May, she ended up where she was pissed because she almost lost her house and these things. Nothing came from that. And also, what really did happen with Peter blowing up York, Pennsylvania? I mean, it was supposed to be, it just got pushed out. Like, all of that got pushed aside to now get the wrap-up wow moment of, oh, Repo is the guy who was repoing that. I'm like, you are lame. Like, it's so lame a reveal. Oh my goodness.
McGinnis too.
Yeah, and
he just doesn't do enough interiors. You finally get him, and you waste him on this stupid rec rap story.
And the problem I had then, while we were talking about it, is that I worry because now going forward, say we see a solicit. Or we just hear, I say to you, oh my God, Ed McGuinness, he's going to be back on Amazing Spider-Man. You're going to think right away, oh crap, it's Rec Rap again. Because that's what he shows up for. You know what I mean? So I don't want that connection there. And at the end, it looks like, and I hate to say that that's the last we'll see of him, because I think that Zeb Wells, but they do end it in a way to have it like, okay, he's there. I really want right now somebody to go and just destroy that limbo embassy. Just get the hell rid of it. Just get rid of it. I don't need that. And the only other thing.
What do you think about Peter defeating Repo by attaching his head via web to a piece of furniture that he threw down his own mouth, so he swallowed and repossessed himself?
Nah. Lame. At one point, it almost looked to me like you were giving the visual of somebody putting their head up their own ass. But then I realized it was just Zeb Wells doing it while he's writing it. But you end up where the whole play, I'm like, you defeated a ridiculous villain by attaching his head to a desk. It was bad. It was really bad. Now, you do get some stuff. Yeah.
Like 5 extra scenes at the end with no rhyme or reason, but they're gang war related.
Yeah, they're gang war related.
Nothing to do with the story whatsoever.
And so what does Zeb Wells do? You get this, hey, look at this. Then you get a Hammerhead deal. You end up getting Silvermane, and then also Count Nefaria. These are some characters that will be the big players in Gang War. But then at the end, because Zeb Wells can't help himself, he always has to have these mysteries, so you have this guy in the shadows of who could it be? And it should probably be Norman Green Goblin, but that's not set up fully, but it also might. It looked like Daredevil to me and made me giggle. But like the big play is, am I that invested in sitting there, like you said about Repo? I'm like, I'm not even going to try to play this game anymore with this guy. I read every issue, so I'll be back reading Gang War. But until then, I'm who cares? Thing. Yeah, I'm like, who cares? Like, I'll see when we get there. But I'm worried about Gang War. You got Cody Ziegler teaming up with Zeb Wells again, and like Dark Web and that Beyond stuff, and I never liked any of the stuff that they did, as a combo deal, and I'm just worried, but we'll see.
Now, there was what I personally consider a worse book than ASM from Marvel Comics this week. It was Captain Marvel, Alyssa Wong, I think it's Jan Bazuldia on art.
Yep.
And like the first 8 pages of this book are just dedicated to letting you know that Alyssa Wong's self-insert character is also a lesbian like she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. and
like, why?
Again,
we knew that.
And yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I didn't get upset about that because you knew that. And also, what I did get upset about, though,
what a waste of space.
And here,
limited real estate.
Yeah, 2 issues now. Everything's Una, this insert character. And even in this, you have negabands that she's kind of doing in a weird way, not really realizing that screws other characters. I don't think she knows. But you end up having this Una solve everything in this issue. Like Captain Marvel, Carol doesn't do anything. She ends up pretty much at one point rubbing furniture and they're playing a game of negative charades, negative zone charades. What am I rubbing? A chair. You're right. Oh no, we're getting attacked by
developing the
Marvel.
bond.
Yeah, and then that's the thing too. You have the negabands, so that should have some sort of stakes or weight to it, but she immediately doesn't do it that way. But then also it's, I don't know what we're going to do. How can we do this? Oh my God, we're being chased by this zombie Marvel. Hey, you have Una say, why don't we go to this place I know about? It ends up being the Sanctum Sanctorum. Now, whether or
Why
not
would
people
they need
liked
to break into the Sanctum Sanctorum?
I said,
when
ring the
Captain Marvel's
doorbell.
Friends with them.
Yeah, friends. In the run of Kelly Thompson, whether people liked it or not, people did have a problem. Doctor Strange taught Captain Marvel magic. She actually learned some magic. So first off, the idea that she has no idea what to do, all she has to do is get on the phone or go and knock on the front door. But no, they're going to break in because Alyssa Wong doesn't know what happened or cares to. So everything revolves around this Una
She has
character.
to know they're both on the Avengers, or they had been on the Avengers at the same time.
Maybe you're, giving her too much credit. I don't know. You would think that.
Into the Sanctum
I mean,
Sanctorum.
the idea that you have Marvel with a hole in his chest.
Oh, God,
with
the chest portal was the worst thing.
A
ever.
portal with a lady reaching. You immediately get a hold of at least Doctor Strange, but she's not even just on the Avengers. She is the leader of the Avengers at this moment in Jed McKay's run. She has all of those characters that she can get a hold of, not to mention every other character from before, but yet, and I get the play that you want to keep your character, but Carol doesn't star in the book anyway. It's a Una book, so have them get a hold of somebody. But this Una character, just like I said, it's based on her. I don't know how this happened. We closed our eyes for 2 seconds. Every book is about another character other than the one on the marquee of the deal. It's like Hawkgirl. It's like every other book going on. I don't get it, because also this character Una is annoying. Not very fun. It's just lame. I just don't get it. I don't get it. It gets me mad.
When you have Omen, portaling out of Marvel's chest during a fight, this is what you should do. Pick up the phone and be like, you got to put me on another book because this isn't good.
Yeah.
Like, this is a waste of my talent. And I feel like I'm on an episode of Punk'd right now.
Yeah.
This can't be real. This is so stupid.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And just when you're reading it, just sit there and amaze at the level of incompetence and lack of knowledge that goes on from Alyssa Wong. She is just there as if they called her up a weekend before and said, just write something, don't worry about it. And she's messing everything up. And not much happens, and you still mess things up. It's bad. And it's one of those, that is a knot. It is ice cold. It got me angry when I was reading it. And, oh, my. But, yeah, that was probably, it's one of the worst of the week, I would say.
So there's a bunch of Fall of X stuff. There's Immortal X-Men. I guess Uncanny Iron Man's tied to that. Uncanny Spider-Man and Wolverine. I didn't get to read all of them, but I did read Wolverine. And it's like a team-up book with Wolverine and Black Panther. And I don't get the book. Because you have Fall of X, you have this big threat Orcus, that's out there in theory murdering mutants left and right and stuff.
Yeah.
And Wolverine's he's like not doing anything. They put him on the sideline and he's going into Wakanda, and he's not really there to stop Orcus. It just so happens Orcus is trying to get their hands on some vibranium or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he and Black Panther team up, but it was not. Yeah. It was such a waste of Wolverine. It was such a nothing burger.
Yeah, and recently they announced whether or not Gail Simone is going to lead the X books, whatever. We are going to, we know that we're going to change things up with Tom Brevoort, things like that. And I'm sure that a lot of people now are just like, screw this then, and kind of bail. And the people who are left seem to like the Fall of X stuff, seem to like this. But the few books that I have read and the few books I keep up with, including Uncanny Spider-Man that I'll mention next, things just don't seem to make much sense. You're doing these things, and it's like you do any sort of thing. Like right now, the Fisk law, where no masks in New York until everybody's still wearing masks. When you have this Orca stuff, it has to be big enough where Wolverine just hanging. He's there. Like you said, it just doesn't feel right in some of these books. It feels like you're getting, I mean, pretty much you have too many X books. They want to keep a Wolverine book going, obviously, but it doesn't quite work with what's going on. I paged through this. I haven't been reading Wolverine for the last couple months. I'm telling you, once they announced, the full out, hey, we're going to be rebooting, we're going to get away from this, I dropped what little I had pretty much. But like I said, I am reading Uncanny Spider-Man now, and that has its issues as well. You didn't read that?
It's probably the best Fall of X books, and I did plan on reading it, but I didn't get to that one. That's how bad Fall of X is, because it's not that good.
I think it's one of the best of them, and I mean, it shows you too with me. One of the books that I don't mind with Cy Spurrier writing. It's not as wacky or bad as some of the things that he does, but the problem with this issue, actually, I was going to say not to spoil anything, but you can't, because you get to the point. This whole series has been based, first off, Kurt, I know people are like, that's not right. It's Kurt, whatever. He is trying to do things as Spider-Man to try to keep his mind off of all the craziness that's gone on. At least that's a little bit more of an explanation than Wolverine just hanging. So you have it where he's doing the Spider-Man stuff, but the big play is Mystique. And he keeps wanting to talk to her. She's running around crazed. Where's my boy? They took my boy. And he keeps, I got to tell her. I got to show her. It's me. And you get to the point where he says, Mom, I have to talk to you. Goes to take his mask off. And then you get a blank page. Read the tie-in next week. You get it. And basically, and legit, it says, hey, we have to talk. Next page. And so they did. Read the tie-in. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I just went through 4 issues waiting for this scene, waiting to see what happens. And I have to go buy a $6 tie-in book now to get that. Then that's not even the cliffhanger. They kind of then go back to the story as if we know what just happened.
The last page?
No, you still have like 3-4 pages. I'm like, at least make it a cliffhanger to make it. You go back then, and the whole play with Silver Sable and him, she ends up kind of being blackmailed that she has to capture him, and you get that at the end of it. But after the conversation that we didn't get to see, it was the only reason I was there, that we have to get this tie-in. I'm like, what the hell? It was like one of the weirdest, like, full out, I just got kicked in the balls moments of a book really, duping you to go and get
this. It's like an FU to the customer.
Yeah. I said, at least give it on the cliffhanger. And I go, oh, man, that's a cool play. I'll go, no, it just happens. And then you have to go back to the story for I'm telling you, 3 or 4 pages. It's a big FU. And that's kind of what I give it. It's because of just that, I say it's a not. But again, if you're reading the series, I still think it's one of the better X books right now that I was reading. It was kicking the balls.
So I have not been reading Immortal X-Men. I haven't really been reading any X-Men. I've been trying it out here and there.
Yeah.
Because we do the show or whatever, and I want to at least be aware of some of the bigger titles. So I decided to try out Immortal X-Men this week, and that was a big mistake. I don't even know if it's hot or not. I'm not really certain. But I opened up the book, and Professor X has Mr. Sinister in his mind or something, and they're like talking to each other, like he's been implanted into his psyche. That was the first story that was going on. And then the second one was Jean Grey trying to rediscover the Phoenix Force while she's with Exodus, while they were fighting a big-ass Pharaoh version of Apocalypse, I think, in her mind. And I had to wait through the book. Wow. I threw my hands up, and I was like, never mind. There's no fucking way. Impenetrable to anybody, unless apparently you've been reading every single issue. I had no...
Man, I haven't been reading
the ideas
any.
Were so bad.
Yeah, Kieran Gillen is not my favorite writer, I guess, going on that. It's just I haven't been reading it. Again, we end up weird science we have in X-Men podcast, but these other guys do it. They love all of this. And I actually get it vicariously through editing the podcast and hear them. Oh man, this is great. And then I always end up, oh, check it out. I'm like, I don't know what the heck they're talking about. Everything I go and check out, I get angry, but I haven't even looked at Immortal X-Men at all.
I wouldn't suggest it if you haven't been reading it. Maybe this is the most amazeballs X-Men story in the history of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm just completely unaware, and I will happily be blissfully unaware that it's great. But I can just tell you, going in and dipping your toe in on that bad boy this week, not a good spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not even.
I don't know if it's bad, but I know
and I
go in and read that comic book.
I've talked about it. I ended up dropping most of the X books after the first Hellfire Gala, so it's been quite some time. So when we started doing this, and when I did try to, but some of these I just haven't read any, so that's why I haven't. But some of the things like I said, Uncanny Spider-Man, I think by the time it's over, I'm going to say, it was kind of cool. Like, it's one of those things down the line, I'll be like, hey, remember when Kurt was Spider? That's all it'll be good for. But I didn't mind reading that and some of the other things. But when you got it's too many issues, and I have not had anybody who I actually trust with their opinion tell me that it's good. So I've avoided that.
All right, Jim, did you read Invincible Iron Man? I know you've been screaming from the rooftops that Jerry Duggan is elevating himself with this title.
Oh, yeah, he's so great. I have not. This is another one that I did. We ended up, when we talked about this 2 issues ago, it drove me nuts. And I think that was an issue that we said was okay. Did you read it?
No.
No, you didn't. Yeah. Again, I don't know anybody. I talked to a lot of people.
I dipped in 2 issues ago.
It was when we went back in, and I was like, let's check it out because of the big play, the wedding and things like that. And I ended up I'm not that into that. And so, no, unfortunately, I didn't even check it out.
Did you do Avengers Inc.? I guess that's the other big title.
Yeah, I did read that. Yeah, I did read that. I reviewed it as well. It's a weird book. I can't even describe it. It's a wacky, hey, everybody, we're going to have mysteries. And then there's an overall mystery of Hank Pym coming back. But let's put that aside to have things. You actually have a mystery in this issue where it's in Valhalla. And you have Janet Van Dyne. So you have Wasp. She's there. She's joined by what is her former villain, Whirlwind, but in the body of Vic Shade, and thinks that it's wacky. But you have a crazy deal with Scourge, and he gets killed in Valhalla, which you shouldn't be able to have. The problem is, and I won't reveal or spoil what happens, but it's not a mystery. When you get to the end, you realize it's one of those things you never could have played along with, and it actually just sets up Scourge going off into the Immortal Thor book by Al Ewing, and you're like, well, why did I read this? It was so odd. I like the art. There's some funny little plays, but this book each issue is like a 1-issue mystery that you will never care about. And all in all, I just don't get it. Here's the thing. I do get it. It's a very Al Ewing book. He's throwing in a lot of obscure characters. He's showing that he knows the history of the, Marvel Universe, but it's not that good. And I don't think anybody's reading it. I really think it's one of those books that I might be the only one reading it. It feels like that sort of book, but it's a mid deal. It's right in the middle. If you're an Al Ewing fan and have been reading stuff like Ant-Man, that Wasp miniseries, the whole, his Immortal Thor, which I do like, but it's just not very good.
All right, so for Marvel Comics, we got one hot, I would say, Incredible Hulk #6, but not quite as good as some of the previous issues. Not hots are Amazing Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Wolverine. You also said Uncanny Spider-Man because it made you off and you took it personally, right?
I took it very personally. I now have a grudge, a vendetta against Icebreaker. He's going to have to start sending me review copies or something to ease me up here because, it's personal now. It really felt personal.
Are we calling Daredevil Black Armor #1 not hot?
Yeah, it's not hot.
All right.
Yeah, it's
and
not.
Then Immortal X-Men, Avengers Inc., Secret Wars Battle World #1. They're all just kind of mid. They're not hot or not.
Yeah, there's
whatever.
mids. Yep. Yeah, they're just
in the middle.
mids. Yep.
Let's go over to DC Comics. They had, I guess, the big release this week. Batman Offworld #1. They also had Titans Beast World Evolution #1, which is more of an anthology.
Yeah, that's some old stuff too. Yeah.
Okay. We also got issues of World's Finest, Green Lantern World Journal, War Journal, Hawk Girl, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, JSA, Nightwing, Superman, Titans, Wonder Woman, Jay Garrick. So kind of a big week for DC. Now, most people would have expected me to read Batman Offworld, and I'm going to. But I've already decided I'm going to review that with Doc on Monday, because after doing the Outsiders book last week, I promised him I would do a flipper, a 50-50 book that it's going to be good or bad, and Jason Aaron's absolutely good for that.
Yep.
So I'll be reviewing that with Doc on Monday, so I haven't actually read it yet.
Yeah, I have. And it was on our Patreon only spotlight. We have 2 books are picked by a level in our Patreon, so this will be kind of an exclusive, I guess. But the idea, I loved it. I thought it was great. I was worried. I'm not a big Jason Aaron fan. A lot of people weren't a fan of his Punisher and especially his Avengers. He comes over to DC. You're worried. Okay. People right away said, okay, he's probably going to do the Justice League when they come back. Like, you get these visions of all these things he might do, and you're worried that it's going to be that Avengers Jason Aaron or that Punisher. And so when I went into it, knowing some of the tropes that he throws in there, I thought it was great. I mean, I think that you and Doc will love it. I don't see any way that anybody reading it can't have a lot of fun.
Doc,
I think he'll like it.
Personally dislikes Jason Aaron.
I do. He takes it to another level all the time, but I think that he will say, despite his hate, that he really likes it. The art's great, and what ends up, you end up having a thing going on.
Me. I think he despises him.
Okay, well, despises. I'm not really hip on him either, but that Avengers book just drove me. I ended up getting in a kind of an online battle with him and Tom Brevoort over that Avengers, and they both were making fun of me, saying it was going to be, they actually told me it's going to be a run that will be recognized like a John Byrne Fantastic Four, and then I laughed at them. And legitimately, at one point, because I'm such a prick, as things got worse and worse, I kept retweeting their awful tweets of what they said until they eventually they deleted them. No, they didn't. I'm still there. No, they deleted those tweets because it was just so ridiculous.
Screen capped them, right?
Yeah. Oh, I have them. Yeah, I'm still
out there, man.
Now, here's the thing, though. I actually like this book. So Jason Aaron, he's doing it. And I said to you before we started that sometimes you do get your groove back. It's like, Stella in the movie, right?
Jason Aaron is notorious for absolutely nailing #1 issue, almost like a Tom King.
Yep.
Punisher #1 was a good issue.
It was. And I'm not going to say I'm thinking back to Avengers, the stuff with the Celestials. It was
good
okay.
Until they did the crossover into the Thor War of the Realms event, and then it just went off the rails. Got a little bit better with the Blade Vampire Nation stuff, just a tiny bit, and then it just went off into the abyss. And then you got, what was that? The new
you at one point you had the Conchu stuff that you even had the
Phoenix tournament.
That Phoenix tournament that was ridiculous. That Echo one. You also had the new Agents of Atlas.
I can't remember what she was, but it was bad.
Or actually, it was Agents of Wakanda. It was. I said at one point that run became a Jason Aaron Presents. He was like almost like back in the day from the mind of J.J. Abrams. It was like he was just trying to spit out all these other side books that people would write. Yeah, bad. So you get to this though, and whether or not it's, you said maybe it's that he does, come in hard with that first issue, but I also think that it's kind of a fresh start for him. He gets to write a Batman. This is his first Batman story. It's only his second thing he's written at DC. But I also think that he is aware of the fact that maybe he has to mind his P's and Q's here. When he comes in, he can't do something wacky. Now, unlike, say, a Bendis, who came in and said he wasn't going to do anything, and then started ripping shit apart, right, and ruined everything. This actually is a play where I thought originally it was going to be full out Elseworlds. So I'm like, that's perfect. I think and you even said that a bunch of the things that he's supposedly doing going forward will be like an Ultimate Universe
He's going to be
Elseworlds.
doing
And that's perfect
Ultimate
for him, right?
Superman.
Yeah, perfect for him because he can't screw things up then. And he can play around like he does. But then when you're reading this issue, the first 10 pages. And remember this when you're reviewing it. Give me a little shout out. The idea that it's like a Predator book. I said Gabe will love it. He loves that Predator. Also, like an alien slash, but Batman's the Predator, and he's there in space with these aliens, not knowing who he is. So at points, they think that he has wings because it's a really neat little play. He throws his smoke grenades. They think he's excreting smoke. It's really neat. And then he gets captured, and you think, the hell, like Batman? But it's all a plan. It's all the deal. And it ends up in a way, not spoiling things, that it's like a year one Batman in space. And it does make it there's weird ways you kind of get there, but overall it's like it's kind of clever. Like at the end, I like the concept. You get two characters that are introduced that aren't annoying, and pretty cool stuff going on. It even by the end feels kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy feel a little with you get. And so I'm like, I really liked it. I was surprised how much I liked it. So my recommend for the whole week. It's my favorite book I read this week so far.
Man, I cannot wait to talk to Doc about this. And be like,
you guys are gonna hate it, and then I'm gonna never hear the end of it.
Jim says this is the best Batman story he's ever read.
Yeah.
Better than The Dark Knight Returns. Better than Batman Year One. Better than Court of Owls.
Now it's better than. Keep going, Watchmen. It's better than like you said, Year One, but also better than Frank Miller's Daredevil stuff. And it's the best. It's good. And again, people, it's funny because I did recommend it to a bunch of people, and I usually say, hey, you should try it, but let me know what you think. And most of them will come back and usually yell at me. But I ended up, like when I recommended Spirit World #1 to you. But when they ended up reading this, all of them came back and said, thank you. Like, actually thank me, which is nice for once. And said,
you like dick pics and everything to let you know
I wish. I would say, maybe. I got to check my DMs. No, they were like, thank you. Because a lot of people are not big on Jason Aaron right now, and almost all of them came back and said, and what it did make me, because this whole play, I really do like recommending comics. I just haven't been able to do it much recently. And so when I do it, and it made me think, and I was just sitting there last night thinking of the idea of why isn't that I'm getting excited about a book like this every week. And then I start thinking, because then I get worried, maybe that's why I liked it so much, because everything else stinks. But I think that this is really solid. I think it's one of those that don't think it's elevated because the rest of the books suck. I think that it's just a really cool story, has some twists, and the art's great. And you're in space. You don't see Batman solo in space a lot, so you have that. And I really liked it. I really liked it a lot.
I'll be the judge of that on Monday.
You tell me. Yeah, I'll watch.
We'll see.
You'll make fun of me. I could just see it now. Right now, you're already setting it up that you're not going to like it just to say I'm bullshit.
Just to spite you?
Yeah, just to spite me. I'm telling you. I
don't live in my head like that.
I know. Well, maybe. No, I think that you'll like it. I hope that you do.
I will do things to spite Gabe, but...
Yeah. That's easy, though. That's too easy.
Once you gave that Predator #1 like a 10 out of 10, I was like, what is going on here?
And here's the thing, just as an aside, right? And Gabe will probably watch this. The idea of these books, you see what came out from DC, right? So Gabe gets a hold of me and he's like, okay, I'm reviewing some books now. I'm going to, because he does most, if not all. I did 2 written reviews this week. Get to that. The idea, he's like, oh, I'm going to review the big books, Hawk Girl. Then he comes back and I'm like, where the hell is this Batman Offworld? And he's like, I do enough Batman books. I don't think it's big enough to review. I'm like, Gabe, it's the biggest freaking book in comics right now. Like, holy crap.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm like, really? Like, and then he's like, oh, Titans. And then the next thing's this. I'm like, why aren't you reviewing this? It's Jason Aaron's coming back. So I had to review it. I ended up reviewing it on the site.
Good for you.
Best written review on the site probably in years, I'd say. I also, though, then reviewed Catwoman because it pissed me the hell off. But it was just crazy. He wasn't going to review it. Like, it's the biggest book. I don't get him.
It's definitely the biggest book, not just at DC, but the biggest book in all of comics this week.
Yeah, this week. And he doesn't think it was. He's like, it's just another Batman book. Ay. It just made me laugh. I said to him, I'm going to review it then, because he just wasn't. He didn't want to review it. I don't get it.
Well, there you go. Did you read the Titans Beast World Evolution? I didn't.
No.
Once I found out it was an anthology, I didn't care.
And it's an anthology. You even have stuff from back in the day. It's like just a collection of Beast Boy stuff. They do this. They end up. There's a guy who listens to our podcast. His name's Manship. And he gets fooled by this shit every time. Like, they'll have a Dark Side War will come out, and they'll have a Dark Side War special, but all it is old shit with Dark Side in it. And they're usually expensive. This is $8. And then you go and you're like, oh, crap, this is just a lot of Marv Wolfman and George Perez stuff, which is great from back in the day, but that's not what I thought it was going to be. That's all it is. There's no reason to read it unless you just want a crazy anthology type deal.
Now, there was a Titans book this week. Last time I read a Titans issue from Tom Taylor, they went to South America and were battling deforestation. I was like, do I really want to invest my time in the Titans picking up litter on the side of the road to save the world? And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a skip Rooney on that one, even though I know that we're leading into Beast World. Did you take a gander at least?
Yeah. And again,
was it good?
We review almost every DC books, so I will gander or read all of them. Some of these this week because of the holiday, because I'm not feeling well, I didn't read fully, but I did read Titans. It's not good. You end up having these things going on. Tom Taylor, I said, the equation to me, and I said this, I think, on our show here at one point, you can't have more mysteries than the amount of issues you've had. Like, you can't have issue number 3 come in and have 20 mysteries in the background. And Tom Taylor somehow has gotten this going, but you end up solving some things, Wally West murder, but it doesn't feel right. You get Swamp Thing involved. Everything feels weird to then go back to, hey, what's Beast? Oh, he's still planting trees. Like, what are you doing?
He's still doing deforestation?
Oh, yeah, they're there. They're
gosh.
doing that. And that's like how you end up where, and at the end, you get the forest going and the Swamp Thing, and you get Nightwing saying, this is incredible. This looks so beautiful. What am I reading? And all in all, again,
Wes Bentley when he saw the bag in American Beauty. This
exactly.
Is the most beautiful thing
That's
I've
what it
ever
is.
seen.
This is
like,
the most beautiful
you
deal.
are the biggest toolbox in the fucking world.
Yep.
Get
So
out of
then
here.
you're heading to Beast World, but you also have the Kid Eternity stuff with. There's just too much going on, but not anything
The
going
Waller?
on. Yeah, not yet. That'll be coming up in the Beast World. And by the way, the Beast World, if you didn't know, is like 19 issues with the tie-ins. I'm like, really? Like, me and you
God,
just
I'm not
did.
looking forward to that.
Me and you just did a thing on Mark Miller and the whole big game and how great it was. And it was just a solid 5 issues. And then you get a Beast World setup that really
Game War
does.
is going to be 29 issues.
Yeah. Beast World just seems like it's Lazarus Planet Part 2, Electric Boogaloo here. And you're just going to end up people with animal powers. So if you're going to do that, why is Beast Boy, who should be kind of connected to the Red, doing green shit by planting trees? Like, you haven't set shit up. Just bad. It's just bad. And that's
You're
Tom
not giving that
Taylor.
one a hot?
No. I'm telling you, Tom Taylor books have become the idea. They're not hot. They're not. They're just nothing. You don't get
That's why I
enough.
stopped reading Nightwing.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing a Nightwing pirate book.
Oh, you were so excited.
You're hitting me from both angles on this one. You know what I mean? I'm like the guy in there going like this. You know, I can't get it up.
Yeah.
And I didn't even check out Nightwing this week because I just didn't care.
You get more
Whatever,
pirate
man.
stuff. You get to a pirate city. You find out that B, who was the Rick Grayson era girlfriend, that she's been pulling some strings to help Nightwing all along because, again, Tom Taylor, he has that weird play. Like, he has to elevate Nightwing as if I said at one point, he writes him as if he needs to be redeemed, which he doesn't. He's a great character. But then also, he doesn't do shit for himself. He ends up having everybody help him, and this shows that was still the case. And while they're there yo-ho-hoing, like,
Heartless is still murdering people.
that's the
ripping
thing.
hearts out.
It's yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum while you end up having Heartless ripping through Bloodhaven, a serial killer. Stop this nonsense. And Tom Taylor, what he does is he tries to make it work by finagling the timeline of his own books, where he'll say, whew, that was a hot weekend. Like, you'll see that 2 years of a story is a weekend? What the hell? And so, just to tell everybody, and people may love Tom Taylor, he just recently won some Eisners, which doesn't mean much. But when we end up this week, we have 10 10 books we're doing on our regular podcast. So when we start to decide, okay, this day we'll do that, we legitimately, for the longest time, we'll just count Titans and Nightwing as not even a book because it only takes 2 seconds to get through. We actually don't even factor that into the whole equation of, oh man, we're going to end up this, it's going to be long. We're like, oh yeah, and by the way, we push those aside because nothing ever happens. The issues take 2 minutes to read. And then at the end, I said it's empty calories. It ends up just feeling like something that is never satisfying. It never is. And Nightwing's my favorite character. And I just sit there and read it. I'm just so done with it. I don't even have any emotions, really, when it comes down to it, except for Heartless running wild. But overall, it's just nothing. It's nothing.
I'm shocked that this could happen. But I guess it happened with Rick Grayson, too. But hey, I'll skip out on Nightwing till something happens. Now, let's talk about some good stuff, because there are a couple of other good books besides Batman Offworld. We got World's Finest this week, Mark Waid, Dan Mora once again, and we've arrived to this Kingdom Come story arc. The Batman and Superman from our universe have arrived there. They found he's not Boy Thunder anymore. He's Thunder Man, and he has some type of personal grievance against both of them. Feels like they let him down or whatever. And this is a fun issue, and it's very well illustrated, but,
Yep.
Kingdom Come Superman fighting our Superman, and Kingdom Come Batman, in a mech suit fighting our Batman.
Yeah.
I guess it had to happen, and they
telling
got it
you,
out of the way at the same time. But it wasn't like...
It's the fun play. And again, it almost feels like what we said earlier. And if you have read A Secret Wars, like, hey, they're going to fight. And that's what it is. But it's fun. And the whole play is a cool deal. We like this Return to Kingdom Come. I do think that one of the funniest, and you brought up Thunderman, because recently I ended up doing some podcasts on the Legion of Superheroes, the Great Darkness Saga, and it makes me laugh all the time where you have like a Star Boy. He's like 50 years old with a beard. He's still going by Starboy. I really like that he is Thunderman now. That to me, that is like a shot at some of these other things. But overall, nothing happens in this that I was surprised at. Nothing was like...
I'm more interested in what Thunderman has done.
Yeah.
To turn these versions of Superman and Batman to his side. And it feels like they're fighting for the path of evil with, Magog?
Yeah, with Gog, who shows up and then
God.
ends up with Magog. And in this, you do see like some of the cracks, though, because they're like, hey there, David, like, why did those people seem to know you? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Terrible.
So things are going on. It made me laugh.
I'm more interested in that part than the heroes fighting heroes thing. But it's a good book, and I'm excited to continue the Kingdom Come stuff. Not as exciting as the first issue, but I guess they're setting things up. We're getting a lot of setup this week.
And that's... You have to. I mean, you have to do some things, and you have a cool setup, though. Sometimes when you get these setup issues, they're like, oh, this really sucks, and whatever. It's still fun. The art looks great. I mean, the book with Dan Mora on it, it's never not going to look great. So you can buy it just knowing that. And I like it. I have fun with it. Again, it's kind of like a skew of continuity, but it doesn't matter here anyway because we're in the Kingdom Come stuff. So I don't mind it, and I really do like it.
The other really good book that I enjoyed was the Jay Garrick book, Jay Garrick, The Flash, from Jeremy Adams. Turns out The Flash, he was basically a grandpa now. He's an older man. He had a daughter. She was erased from history. He recently discovered in the first issue that she was back, and and all of his memories are kind of coming back to him, and he's feeling all the guilt, and his wife is trying to help him through it or whatever. And it turns out Judy is trying to have like a normal life, and she's going to go to the mall and stuff, and he's being overprotective. And it's just good, wholesome family fun with the cybernetic. Is he a cyborg ape?
Yeah. I believe, the whole play with the fight. Yep.
That shows up in their present, almost.
He's got like the cybernetic eyes and stuff.
First time it was Dr. Destiny, Dr. Eternal.
Yeah, Dr. Eternal. Yeah,
is coming back,
and that's cool. And again, this book is really good, and I do want to point out that with people ending up, first off, I'll say this Judy stuff, it started in that Lost Children book, which I do suggest if you like this to go back and read. I had a lot of fun with that. But even if you don't and didn't, you can still have fun with this. But this shows that while a lot of people say, oh, people are so hateful of new characters, or they don't want this, or they don't want to change. If you do it in a way that's fun and do it in a way that you try to make sense of it all, Jay Garrick finding out that his daughter, like you said, the age almost makes it like a grandfather, but having this character doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, Jeremy Adams is trying to shove anything down our throat. What he's giving us is a fun story with some cool characters and that idea of, oh my God, a lot of history had been forgotten. Now that Judy's there, it's starting to come back. And like you said, Jay's remembering things like that. But overall, it doesn't feel like it doesn't, it does have an agenda. The agenda is to have fun. And I'm on that agenda. And so everybody should check it out. And if they end up like, oh, I don't like that Alan Scott book because these are that Golden Age deal together, or even the Sandman deal, this is the place to be for just fun stuff. You get Stargirl in it. You get, the JSA feel. Yeah, so it's really fun. And I like Judy, his daughter. I think that she's a fun character that I hope, ends up continuing. I don't know what's going to happen with these, Justice
we have
Society
too many
books.
Flash characters, Jim. What are you talking
I know.
about?
Well, that
I'm
I
not
just
joking.
like
I'm
her.
not being facetious. There's
No,
too many
I'm
Flash
saying
characters.
there are, but if I think of things and I do think they might be getting rid of Wallace and Avery, and that's what that mini was for. But even so, this is a kind of its own thing. This is the JSA stuff, and I do like her. But you're right, there are a lot of speedsters. I mean, there's way too many right now. But I think that this is a lot of fun, and again, it gives Jeremy Adams the things that he likes doing. He gets speedsters and family.
Jeremy Adams Flash Gordon book.
I'm going to check it out. Yeah. Wow, I actually
really?
like Flash Gordon. Also like Flesh Gordon, but that's, besides the point. But still, I am excited about that, especially I think even with Jay, it has that, and the pulp, like you said, Dr. Attorney, it has like a pulpy deal that I think he's already kind of in gear with that, with the Flash Gordon. So I'm gonna read that. And my biggest play though is that I hope that he doesn't get screwed over by DC that much that he just ditches them like everybody else, because he's had some ups and downs with them. Not anything his fault either. He's written pretty much good stuff all around, but they don't seem to, want to elevate him as much as he should. And this book should be bought. It's really good.
Moving from one writer that isn't getting the acclaim that you and I feel he deserves, Jeremy Adams, to a writer that gets far more acclaim and opportunities than he deserves, Tom King's Wonder Woman issue. This is issue number 3. I haven't liked this series from the very first issue, but now I absolutely hate it after the 3rd issue. Yeah. This was an absolute disgrace. I'm definitely going to cover on the channel. I'm going to do a video of it tomorrow. I hadn't planned on it, but now that I finally read it, I was like, man, he really underplays, the tragedy of how suicide is almost an epidemic amongst military members.
Yep.
And it's really done for no purpose whatsoever.
No purpose
than
ever.
Being an edgelord.
And yeah, it's edgelord shit, and it's disgusting. And like you said, as a military guy yourself, I would hope and would think that you would take offense to it. And the idea where I go and I read reviews and I see people talking, and I'm done with this nonsense where, because Tom King puts some sort of mental issues in he doesn't ever do it in a good way. He doesn't, there's never a solution. I mean, the whole deal with that Heroes in Crisis, people give him break after break after break of got this and he wanted that. The guy ended up, and I knew there was problems right there. And since then, I've been completely, just pissed off at him. And this makes it even worse, is that when that Heroes in Crisis was going to come out, if people don't realize, he said that he was going to go to crisis centers. He was going to go and talk to a bunch of military people, a bunch of people that came back PTSD and things like that, because he wanted to get, the idea of how they do recover from it, what happens. And then when he was asked the next time, oh, how did that go? He's like, I decided not to do that. I just want to tell my own story. I'm like, screw you. He used it as a way to push something and then completely didn't do it, just to show that he had no care anyway. And so when you get to this, I'm sick of hearing Tom King, he always brings out the mental issues. I can point out mental issues all day as well, but you're never giving a solution to them. And when you're doing this, it makes it feel like all you're doing it is for shock value, which he always does. This
And he
series
doesn't
already.
do it with any type of care or concern. That's what pisses me off.
No. I mean,
is the way that he presented it.
And you had a video before about this, and again, so I'm looking forward to the one coming up. But this is a guy who went and showed a character dealing with the death of his wife and unborn kid, and saying, I'm kind of glad they died. That's disgusting. You end up where, at the beginning of the Mr. Miracle book, he was trying to commit suicide, and then by the end, it almost feels like he just kind of gives up. Whether you go, Batman deal, he's going to do
Bruce
that.
Wayne was like 8 years old or whatever. And Alfred sees the whole thing and never intervenes.
Nope. And then even then, you have him, urban surfing, plane surfing down. It's just a good dead. Like everything ends up, and this is where going with this book, but also if we talk about Hawkgirl at any point. I'm so sick of the idea that these writers, and Tom King is like the edgelord of these edgelords, where you go, oh, what character am I writing? Let me figure out how I can make it miserable. Let me find out where they're, having, it's never, I'm going to show heroics. It's never, I'm going to show the hope. He did it with the Supergirl book that now people seem to love. The idea where, why are you doing these things just to be misery? And I don't want to read any book, let alone a Wonder Woman book, where this shit happens in it, where I'm like, this is just bad. It really is bad. The whole tone, I just don't get it. Plus, the issue is so over narrated and boring.
Oh,
then
God.
you get to the end and it's disgusting. It is. It really is that bad. And he just doesn't care. And I just don't get it. I mean, I guess I should, because he does it every time. You have kids die in every book. You had a kid watch his mom die, or her mom die in the first issue of this Wonder Woman even, and people just let that pass. They're just, oh man, he shows how it really is. I'm like, no, it's not what I read this shit for. I did like the backup though, though I don't know, the way that he plays it out is almost like this Trinity character. It was a dupe all along. It might not even be Wonder Woman's, but we'll see how that turns out. But she's cute. Like, that's kind of fun. But you do that right after the awfulness, and I don't get it.
Well, and there are other levels of awfulness to the book. I mean, like, that part was absolutely repugnant. Like I said, I'll do a video highlighting that up front, but I'll talk about some of the other issues more in full. But the portrayal of Wonder Woman here, like, who the fuck is this? It's not Wonder Woman. She's got like an entire group of dudes like firing at her, and she's like looking at her watch as she's bouncing stuff off. And it's like,
it's what he does. That's why Tom King is great at writing characters you know nothing about, because then you don't understand how much he's fucked them up. When you end up having him write an established character that people love, you realize he doesn't get it. He does it as a grandstanding kind of thing, and he will just pretty much, there's self-insertion and then forced insertion. And my idea of Wonder Woman and anything he's written, he has a story in his head and he'll force insert the lead character into that story, whether it fits or not.
I describe it as he breaks the character around his story.
Yeah, that would be. And just imagine, I mean, you want to get awful like him. It is like a square character into a round hole, and he is just jamming that shit in until, it fits. And it never really fits. And it's to the point where...
she's even talking shit on Steve Trevor here.
Yep. Yeah, I don't get it. And I had people this week arguing how great this book was because, look, he did this and he did that. And even when they're showing me the things that they claim he did for Diana and for Wonder Woman, it's not really anything. It's ambiguous shit about her, like in the first issue. Oh, man, she's no longer born from clay. Or she is, but he's back and forth with that. And then you get to this and you realize, I don't know who this character is. The overall story, kind of like we said with the Gotham War, it doesn't really work anyway, because you hand-waved a lot of things away, like the idea that Batman and Superman would be involved, or the governments and things like this. Now it becomes, oh, we're just going to play the MacGuffin of the sovereign, and I don't know how or why people would like this. And then when you sit there and you see what happens at the end, like you said, and I'm looking like people have, you get to these points where you think that everybody has to have had enough of this, and yet they eat it up. They seem to think that this is what they want, or they know what they want from comics, but it's not what I want. I don't need to see that. And it just felt bad.
No, I did not like that one at all. There are a couple other books that I read this week from DC. Didn't get everything that I wanted in, but I did read Superman. Once again, I was very happy with the Gleb Melnikov art.
I love it. Yeah.
Really, really adds something to Superman in this story. But there's something off about this. Like it wasn't a good conclusion. The idea that Superman would put himself in like a kryptonite powered suit is just stupid. It would be like, Wes, the only way you can defeat this enemy is if you put this bowl of water on your head. It's like,
for 3 weeks. Me. Like, I don't think that'll win the day. I think that might be
I'm gonna die if I do that.
Well,
what, you don't want to take one for the team? Like, no, let's find another way here.
Yeah,
that's that whole part is like it broke the story for me. It's like you wouldn't get Superman to do that.
Yeah.
He's not that stupid.
No, he isn't stupid, and yet he will do whatever it takes, but not to a stupid level in my mind. But you get this, and it's a weird play because Superman's been one of my favorite books of the dawn of DC, and I'm not a huge Joshua Williamson fan. I really liked it, but the one thing I even ended up not arguing, but Yule gave me some crap at one point because I kept saying that some of these stories, and we're only this many 8 issues in, some of the things going on, they seem to be wrapped up in weird ways or pushed aside and things like that. And it feels like that again. It feels like he has this big story, but he doesn't quite know how to tie it all together, end it, to kind of pull it.
It's
and
like
I'm worried.
Like, well, I need Superman to have kryptonite poisoning. What's the way?
How do I get there?
Give it to him? Well, let's have him give it to himself. Oh, that's genius.
And when you say it like that, it's true. And we talked about it, I think it was last week on the show, about the idea of some writers where they have 3 jokes. Let's make the issue towards those. I think that might be the case with this. And Joshua Williamson is leading to a big story, the Brainiac story, maybe even tie in, the Amanda Waller stuff, all that. So there is that big thing coming down the line. And in his mind, I think he does have an idea of, okay, I'll do this to this to this, but it doesn't feel like it has like really great connective tissue by the end. And it feels like some of the things, like you said, eye rolling, like really, like that's what you did. And sometimes things just end to get them. But I still like it.
Good example here, Jim. They do defeat the chained guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not sure how they did it, but they shot a bunch of like seatbelts into the air and they wrapped themselves around him.
Yeah, seatbelts. That's what it seems. And that's the other thing.
They look like the straps that you hook stuff on the top of your car.
It does. At the word like bungee cords, they're going to have like a bungee cord ride in there. And the problem I have with that, and this is again, I'll mention Yule, because when you had a Parasite story, I thought, man, this is pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, it ended. And then you get this, and I'm like, all right, I'm just kind of getting into the deal with this chain. I think it's a weird play to have anything with chains right after what happened in Action Comics with the War World, very based on it seems like I'm going to one-up you with chains for some reason. But when you get this, I thought, all right, this is getting big. I'm not sure I love Graft and Farm yet, but this kind of gets, and then you end up throwing seatbelts at them, and then it's done. Like, all right, well, that's kind of weird. And I hope that
Wonder Woman bad, it's not.
No, it's not. And I still like the series.
It wasn't a great ending. I was like, okay.
No, and it's starting to add up. And I know that a lot of people love this book. I still really like it, but these endings of things are starting to add up to not be satisfying overall. When you sit there and start thinking of the overall story, you start to kind of like, like you said, I don't know how he got taken down, and I don't really know what's going on there, but I like the overall deal that catches up to you eventually. I hope that he kind of stays and has some room to breathe. I did see read an interview with him where he did mention the idea that I like to have things done, and I want to put 3 things in one issue, and I want to do that, but I think he needs to settle down a little, kind of get rid of his ADHD writing, which he does have. He's all over the place, and kind of settle on 1 or 2 things, because he has some really cool ideas in this. I really like the ideas that he has. They just end up kind of coming and going, and you just don't have as much weight to them as they should.
Yeah, I'm not considering giving it the book or anything.
No,
I'm not going to call this one hot because
I'm not
either. Disappointing. Another book that I'm not going to call hot or not, but I am going to give this book up: Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Or at issue number 2, we finally get some superheroes fighting monsters, which is fun. And there's even a neat little spot where you had the Bat family taken down like an enormous bat monster,
Big
kind
bat
of thing.
monster. Yeah.
But there's no Kong in the book, and they keep like interrupting the action with these stupid moments of just mass exposition.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It just feels like the easiest home run in the history of the world. You have the Justice League fight Godzilla and Kong, and like, this isn't what I was looking for. So
yeah, it's weird. And we talked about this. This was the other book that we talked about on our Patreon Spotlight. Going in, the idea where it seems like, you're playing softball here. You have the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Sure, you have to have a story that gets them together, but nobody is going to really pick that apart. If at the end, all of a sudden, nobody's sitting there, well, I don't really think that makes sense that the Justice League, you want Godzilla and Kong fighting. You don't even get Kong. It seems like they're setting Kong up by having Ollie go to Skull Island. That's now, it's so wacky. The things that come up in this book, where I think that Buccellato thinks that he has to write a legit, it's weird, a legit story, I say, but a story that is more than just Justice League versus Godzilla versus, but that's all we want. This should be like a Secret Wars that I keep bringing up, the idea where you just do some crazy shit, have some awesome panels, get some toys out of it. I mean, it seems like it'd be easy to do, but you don't. And just for a shout out, if anybody out there is a Jason Todd fan, they're going to make, he looks like an asshole in this, like every other book he's in. They always end up doing it. Billy Batson Shazam is just a moron. And then at the end, did you see that a lot of people have that last page where it looks like Superman's been completely destroyed by Godzilla, and people are getting angry about it online, like, that's bullshit, the deal. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it is Godzilla. But it's also Superman, and it isn't what ended up happening in it. He ended up trying to save Billy, and then he got blasted. He's down. He's not dead. It just people were losing their minds. Yeah, people were losing their minds. I mean, that I even said to one guy, it wasn't even enough to fry his full costume. He's just kind of smoking there, and it's fine. You have to go back and forth. You can't just have one side. And by the end, I don't know if people are aware, there probably won't be a winner. There's probably, these things don't work like that. You're not going to have
and they'll turn on the or the Legion of Doom.
You say this. One of the most ridiculous things I've ever read in my life, in my mind, is Superman coming out and like, hey, guy, what's up there, Godzilla? Yeah. What are you doing? You looking at me? What's going on? Like, he thinks, what does he think Godzilla's going to do?
To communicate?
Yeah, and it goes, it's like, oh, I get you. I get your feelings. I'm like, what does he think going on? Superman should have flown out there, grabbed him, and taken him somewhere right away that they could at least fight, but I also get the play, too, that people forget. Superman isn't just going to kill things. But the idea that Buccellato thinks that you're going to have this conversation, it was so weird when he's just there. Hey, what's going on? You in town for a few days? All right. It's very odd. But like you said, the side things that come up, too, are just odd. It's just odd. And no Kong yet. I mean, you're waiting for Kong, and we'll see. I said I don't think Kong's ever going to fight. I think that Kong's going to be looked at as like, oh, look at him. He's like this intelligent. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird book. I thought was going to be
core of the book.
Yeah. I thought that this book was going to be just a lot of fun. You wouldn't even have to think about it. Like, oh man, that's coming out. Yeah, I like seeing them fight, and there's some cool art. The art is okay, but overall, it's a weird miss so far. It's very odd. I didn't think this was going to miss as much as it did.
Yeah, the other the books out there are Green Lantern War Journal, which I haven't got to, but I will read that one. And then also Hawk Girl.
Yeah,
I don't think I'll read that one.
Yeah, Hawk. It's bad. I mean, and Green Lantern War Journal is an odd book that people who can wrap their head around seem to really enjoy. I'm kind of in the middle. When we talk about it on our podcast, the guy I talk with, DC stuff, Eric, he's a huge Green Lantern fan. He ends up, liking most of the things. And you do have to kind of get in this mode because this ties into some of the Jeffrey Thorne stuff that I don't know if anybody read. Also ties into some Mosaic stuff from back in the day to get this whole weird play that also hinges a bit on the Worlds Without a Justice League. Like, it's very wacky. It doesn't feel to me like it's any sort of easy in for people, but the people who kind of have figured things out, they really enjoy it. I read it, and it's kind of a slog to get through. I hate to say it because I do like Philip Kennedy Johnson, but it's not a book that I ever, these couple issues have enjoyed, but it's getting a little better. It's got some excitement, but again, I think it's a hard sell, and it's not from the little sales things that we see. It's not selling well because of that, I think, but Hawkgirl's it's terrible. It's a terrible book. Chidsey Axelrod does not know the character, got hired to write the character, decided not to write that character to get her character Galaxy in, and then in the meantime has no story whatsoever, and it's come to play here. It's like come to roost in the penultimate issue. You have a villain, Verpecula, that nobody will ever mention again, and this is another book, like I said about Tom King, where you get the chance to write a character and the first thing you think of is misery and torment and, just bad. Like, why do that? Why not have this? We end up, and Ron Mars just ended up having a tweet that I think you ended up seeing as well, of the idea of a first issue, but I'll go with the idea of a series. Hawkgirl, Kendra, she gets a series. You have 6 issues to show people how cool and great these characters are, and instead they're in the fetal position eating Haagen-Dazs. You don't need that. That's not going to get anybody excited. That's not going to allow the character to continue. And it's a problem, and the book sucks. It sucks bad. And so if you even had an inkling to check it out, like, oh, it can't be that, don't read it. It's so bad. It really is. And it's nothing. But like I said, the Green Lantern War Journal is a good enough book. It's just a hard book to get into.
I like it good enough, but it's also not on my I must read it immediately list.
No, I mean,
I'll get to eventually.
Yeah, it is one of those. I actually think that it would probably read better in trade anyway. I think that it'll be one of those to just kind of marathon a bunch of issues together, and tying it in with the Hal Jordan, Jeremy Adams book will be cool and things like that. But as of now, I'm with you. It's good, but I don't jump to read it.
Yeah. So for DC Comics, we do have 3 hot books. Now you're saying Batman Offworld is hot. Yeah. I'll be the judge of that on Monday. Doc and I are going to review that, and we'll see what happens.
Yes.
But we're definitely saying World's Finest is hot, as well as Jay Garrick, The Flash.
Yeah.
And then for not hot, definitely Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And Hawkgirl. Yeah, Wonder Woman's definitely just bad. You end up where if you don't like Tom King, you still get surprised by how bad it is. And I don't like Tom King. And I was surprised. And again, I said it's disgusting. And I don't say that about comics very often. Also, just an aside, the JSA book came out, Justice Society of America book came out. It's issue number 7. That book has been delayed so much that even when I thought it was coming out, and we go through a thing at the end of each podcast, what we'll do next week and stuff, I didn't even read it out. I didn't even say it because I never know it's going to come out. It came out, it's okay. The book's been delayed too much, and it just doesn't have the oomph anymore. Yeah, it ends up, and I mentioned it a bit with the Jay Garrick book. You're leading into the JSA book, which it'll end in issue 12. It's a maxi series, but it's done by Jeff Johns. He's not going to be doing anything going forward. He's going exclusive of this Ghost deal imprint. And so what's going to happen? Is Venditti going to pick it up, or are they just going to ditch these things? It's kind of in a holding pattern in my mind, so I don't get that excited about it.
Now, you didn't say Nightwing or Titans were not hot. You just said they were mid?
They're just, they're nothing. Yeah, they're mid. That's the thing. I'm going to say, I'll say Titans is not hot. Nightwing's ridiculous, but so you could count it as not hot. They're just not very good. There's nothing to them. They're just
calories.
Books. Yeah, they're empty calories. That's all they are. That's really all they are. So we'll go not hot with those nonsense. And I'm not looking forward to Beast World at all.
Nor am I.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the indie comic scene. They didn't have a whole lot of really big issues. We did have some number ones. A Holy Roller number 1, Somna number 1, Eden Frost, Lunar Lodge, and Mortal Terror all debuted this week. We also got issues of Gunslinger Spawn, Universal Studios Dracula, Void Rivals, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Star Wars Hyperspace Stories. I read 3 of the #1 issues.
Okay.
Did you get to check on any of
I
those?
didn't get to check any indie stuff out. Again, I feel bad, but I am going to read Holy Roller and Void Rivals once we're done here. I just ran out of time. And did you read Holy Roller?
I did not read that one.
Okay, I wanted to see if it was any good. I haven't found anybody who's reading it, so I'm looking forward to reading it, though. Which ones did you read?
I checked out Eden Frost #1, which is from Mad Cave. It's interesting. Of the 3 indie books that were new this week that I read, that was the best one. If you were going to read one
Really?
and you were going to want to jump in a series, that would be the one of the 3. It's not spectacular or anything, but it is somewhat interesting. There's a couple of kids that are in Russia, and they settled in some town, and something has happened. You're not really sure what has happened, but they're on the run, and the like Russian soldiers show up, and they're talking to this one kid, and it turns out he was bullying them, and the 2 kids had tried to defend themselves. And next thing you know, I think it's a golem. Like a golem shows up and protects them. I don't know why, but there's also this mystery of what happened to their mom and dad as they're on the run. And it's pretty good. It's not like the most amazing thing in the history of the world, but if you're wanting to jump into something that had some intrigue, I think Eden Frost and Mad Cave is a good choice.
It's funny because I wanted to see what it was, and I'm on Comic Book Roundup going through some of the things as you said, and I actually do have it. I actually realized that I got a review copy. I saw the cover, and I thought, I don't know what I thought. I ended up thinking like this is something like ripped from the headlines, and it seems a little too odd. So I kind of just
no, it's
aside.
like historical fiction.
Okay, then I like, because you end up you have a military-looking guy on the cover, 2 kids, and then I read a little synopsis, and I'm like, okay, I don't know that. So yeah, I'm going to check it out then, because I actually do have it. So now I'm mad I didn't read it.
Yeah, it's not the most amazing thing ever, but it's definitely worth the look. The other 2, I was a little less impressed by. These are from Dark Horse. One of them was called Lunar Lodge #1, and they're both horror books. And it's framed on the idea that there's this guy, he's married, and he finds out that his wife is not going where she says she's going. She says she's going to a conference. He gets like a confirmation from the Lunar Lodge. Can you confirm your wife is going to be there? And he confirms it. And he obviously assumes that she's cheating on him. And he arrives, and it's a little weird. He immediately gets booted. They tell him there's no room at the inn, type of thing. And he ends up going into town, and weird stuff is happening. But somehow he ends up being able to sneak in there. And I guess the big reveal is, and which you'd already figured out by this point because they've given you so many hints, is that it's a full moon, and the people that are staying in the Lunar Lodge are actually werewolves.
They're werewolves.
And his wife apparently is a werewolf.
Okay.
That's like the hook. I would give that an enormous not hot, because they had really
telegraphed
the werewolf part of the story for the big reveal. And I just didn't think there was a whole lot to it. The other book, called Mortal Terror, might be of more interest to other people. It's not something I'm going to read, but it is like a switcheroo. It's a different take on vampires.
Yeah, I did hear of this, and they said that it's like the hey, you think you know vampire stories? Well, we're going to turn it. And I saw some people were enjoying it.
It's
but
turned on its head to where I'm not sure exactly what time frame it is, but it's definitely a long time ago. You got lords and all that kind of stuff going on, and the people that are ruling the lands are vampires. And there's legends that there are mortal beings out there that are like the adversary of the vampires. So the vampires are us, and we're the vampires. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We're the ones that are.
We're the ones.
Like
yes.
And I Am Legend, but not as cool in my opinion. How's that?
I'm with it. I ended up where I saw that I believe like Christopher Golden is involved, and I was like, I used to read some Buffy stuff with Christopher Golden, so I was going to actually check it out. But
I think some people will really like it.
Okay.
But it just wasn't clever enough for me.
Yeah. But it was better than the Lunar Lodge. So that's
certainly.
The deal. Okay. So it
better.
wasn't as it's a weird play. They got vampire books coming out, they got the werewolves, and you got it all. But yeah.
The Lunar Lodge one was quite boring.
It was bad.
I found no interest whatsoever by the end of it.
Yeah. It's not getting great reviews. I'm just looking at the reviews, and when they're not getting great reviews from the normal, usual suspects, there's problems. But that Mortal Terror has gotten a couple decent enough reviews.
Mm-hmm. No, I could see it appealing to people.
Yeah.
It just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I'm not actually a big horror comic fan in general, so a lot of that stuff won't appeal to me. And the idea, I don't really like horror movies, but when you get a comic, I saw one person was like, "Oh man, this comic had like 3 jump scares." I'm like, "Really? Like you actually jump scared from turn?" Like, what are you, 3? I wanted them to film this crazy, like all of a sudden they didn't realize they were reading a comic out of nowhere. Bullshit, but it's just not my thing with the horror stuff. And there were a bunch of horror books out this week, and so again, I ran out of time. Okay,
I read the Universal Studios Dracula from James Tynion, the 2nd issue. If you like the original Universal Studios Dracula movie, there's a good chance you'll like this. It's basically the same story. The art, like the illustrative quality of the art, is very, very high.
It's funny too, because I said that I did read this, so I can go, and I'm like, yeah, it is pretty high. It's just not my. Do you like the art? But
it's not visual storytelling.
No, that's the problem.
It's like storyboarding. It's not really It's a bunch of scenes with people talking, and then a couple of scenes where Dracula does a couple of things that are more artistic in nature and do have more visual storytelling elements to it. But for the most part, it's somebody illustrating scenes rather than telling a story through the art.
Yeah.
So while it is exceptionally high quality and the ability of the artist is very, very high, the ability for him to tell stories with his art, I don't think is really there. But if you like the original Dracula movie, James Tynion is doing a really good job of paying tribute to that. And if that's your thing, I think you'll probably love this comic.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that and I read the first issue. I was a little bored. It really isn't my thing. It's very
slowly paced, and it is boring. Yes,
but that makes sense for what he's doing. The idea of doing that property and the old deal, it's going to be. But when I ended up reading the first issue, and then it's the same as the second, I even said to my wife, because when art like that comes up, like it's something so different or something cool like that, I will say, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And she's, "Oh my God, that looks fantastic." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I'm like reading it, and I said to her, the problem is when you're reading it, it's almost like somebody's just like, you're reading a book and somebody's walking by with a painting, like, "Look at this," and then you're like, "Okay."
When you're reading a book and they have an illustration underneath,
like a lithograph type looking illustration too. But that fits the deal, so I give him full credit with it. And I have a feeling he's going to win. So the guy wins awards for anything. This may get some awards by the end, because if you are into it, it's, and even if you're not, it's a really well done book. It's just not my thing and kind of boring for me. But I always need not.
I don't think it's a well done book. Here's my issue.
Well,
it's a comic book. It's not a 1920s
I know. Well,
1930s era movie. I think you have to adapt the material to the medium that you're telling it in.
The weird
and
play.
I don't think Tynion achieves that.
I think that's the weird. I think he's trying to not. It's weird.
Well, I agree with you.
I said it about Venditti in the Wesley Dodge Sandman book. You have a bunch of plays in that book that ends like, man, the scene like took like 3 pages, and then I'm like, I think it's taking that long because it's playing off that old school vibe and things like that. But that's a little more of a comic book, though, than this. You're right, though, because of the way the art is, even so, it's. I say well done because it looks like it took a lot of time, and they're putting. No. But you're right.
The quality of the illustrations is very, very high.
It probably.
Although I think Tynion should have worked harder to adapt it to the comic book medium and make it a little bit faster paced.
Yeah, I could see this as more of like an oversized book that you'd have on your. Coffee table book where you have 1 page of text and have a nice page. Yeah, it is. It as a comic book, you're right. It is a little wacky.
I do think this, though, Jim. People that are going, well, I don't read comic books. I read graphic novels.
Oh, graphic novels.
Pinky out.
Oh, my.
I love this comic book.
Yeah, again, I think so. And I don't want to sound like I'm flip-flopping, but my whole play is like, it really is well done for what it's doing. But like you said, you are right. It tends to not really feel like you're adapting it into a comic, you're doing something different. But I think that this is his deal. I think that Tynan, he reads his press clippings. He thinks he could do anything, so that's what he does, and
Well,
he does
probably
that.
can. It probably sells, and
Sure.
there's
I don't
quality
get it.
there, but I think it could be better.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not going to read issue 3. How's that? I'm not interested.
I get them advanced, like ahead of, like months ahead, so I already have issue 3.
Very nice.
The only reason why I read issue 2 is because I was bored the one day, and I'm like, well, I read 2, and I think I'm with you. I don't think it just ended up being not a waste of time, but it took longer than it should have. And at the end, I just didn't feel like I actually was tired by the end, but that happens with everything I read. I have problems.
You're old.
I am very old.
too.
And I have the crazy attention. The things that I was reading today, and I'm reading these things. I'm like, I got to read all these things. I have this amount of time, and I'm there. And at one point, I caught myself. I'm just like looking out the window, thinking about if my shed would end up getting flooded the way it makes no sense. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And I have to go, and then I'm listening. I have to listen to white noise. Well, it's a struggle. It's a struggle every week. It's a struggle. Then I start that. The problem is for this, then I'm like, which of the stories that happened this week should I do and tell about my kids? Because there's usually some nonsense going on. And so I have to figure that out as well.
We're almost there, but I do have one hot from the indie scene, and I will go with Void Rivals.
Yeah.
From Robert Kirkman. Wants to get a good comic book. We finally got the characters sprung out. The two are reunited, but there's a little weird beef between them. They certainly don't trust each other. And as the rescue is happening and they're trying to get Offworld, they've been set up. Somebody has double-crossed them, and they're on the run once again as they're kind of saved. And they end up going somewhere where they're not supposed to go. And it might be a barren wasteland or something like that. They end up scaling a wall, and now they're in a place where everyone who saw them go over there assumes that immediately going over the wall means that you are dead.
Okay.
So
I haven't read it yet.
Bigger adventures headed.
I'm going to be reading. I said I'm going to read it when we're done. And it pisses me off that I didn't read it because it's a book that I've enjoyed. And I was worried. I think a lot of people might have been when you get the whole, oh, my God, the Transformers. And then once the Transformers books start coming out and everything, that this would kind of lose its zing and whatever. But I still really like it. I like Robert Kirkman, so
There's still
I
a
do
little
like
tiny connection to the Energon
I
stuff.
figured there would be.
Transformers.
Yeah.
And then there's also a big reveal at the end. They're like, well, if this has happened, we need to call up to this. And when the name I didn't recognize, I was like, is that a Transformer? Is that a Decepticon? Next thing you know, I'm Google searching. And it turns out it's something original to Void Rivals.
Okay,
that's
so
that's
you
don't
the
even
thing.
See it, but
you're still in that mode, though. That's the problem with it. The Void Rivals. The problem is if you do have something pop up, you immediately think, "Oh my God!" Like you said, Decepticon, Autobot. But yeah, I'm glad that he's continuing on and setting up his own thing because again, I really like the series. The big wow factor was the beginning with the Transformers and things like that, but it's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's got its own identity. It was definitely doing Enemy Mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
very close to that story, and now it's kind of discovered its own story now. Mm-hmm. It's doing its own thing, and I do appreciate that.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to be reading that. I'm sure. Again, you're going to say it's hot, and I trust you with that because it has been really good.
And I do say Lunar Lodge is not hot.
Yeah, that's your not hot. Yeah,
I thought it was boring. They telegraphed the big reveal, and it just wasn't executed well, in my opinion.
Yeah. And there's so many books out there that you don't have to deal with something that ends up telegraphing generic stuff. And there's a lot of indie horror stuff as well.
But I can definitely see a lot of people thinking Mortal Terror or Dracula are hot as well. Or even Eden Frost, because I thought that was of the
I'm going to check that out. Book. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check out. I don't think I'm going to read Lunar Lodge, but I'll read the others. And as well, like I said, Holy Roller, I wanted to check out when I heard of it, and then I just kind of lost track.
I wanted to check that out too because it's Rick Remender.
Yep.
And it's just like I said, the kid got sick, and I didn't make it all the way through before we started recording. And we have a hard time to where we start, Jim.
Yes, we do. So yeah, we got to get going, right?
You get done, and you hope that
Jim
covers the missing spots.
And that's the thing. I sat there and I'm reading, and I'm like, oh God, I have the last couple of weeks. I haven't gotten to a ton of the indie stuff that I wanted, but I sat there thinking, well, Wes will come, and you did. You ended up reading some of those. So we got that.
I got 5 of them in.
Yeah,
but Holy Roller is the one I was most looking forward to, and I try to leave the thing that I think is going to be really good at the end, but I just didn't quite make it.
That's why I didn't, get to end, why I'm going to read that in Void Rivals as well, because I'm pretty sure Void Rivals will be good, so that's one of the last things of the week that I end up reading, those sort of things.
So it's time for the Dad Corner, Jim. Now, if you don't remember, today was Thanksgiving. Actually, it still is Thanksgiving for you.
It is. Yep.
It's 3:40 a.m. here in the Philippines, so we're
2:40 in the afternoon here.
We're a few hours out of Thanksgiving here, and last year I got my wife, my kids. I actually took my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, and 2 of my wife's brothers, and we went to another city called Cebu, and we went to this big casino hotel to do a Thanksgiving dinner there, and we paid a lot of money. Not only, just for the buffet, but the house that we were renting and all that kind of stuff. And the food there was disappointing. I was like, I cannot have second-rate Thanksgiving again.
Really?
So you probably noticed I look very tired.
Yes, you do look tired.
Because I had to wake up early today at, what was it, 2:30? Something I ended up having to wake up early, and then I cooked for 3 hours straight.
Really?
And we made a rotisserie chicken. Because my stove is laughably small. You could put a turkey in there if you wanted to, and there's only so much space on the stovetop. So I was we've got to use the slow cooker. I need to be able to use my air fryer that's got the rotisserie thing in it, and I had to think outside the box. How am I going to cook all this stuff? So we ended up making the rotisserie chicken in the air fryer. We made some cream corn in the slow cooker, and that was amazing. I'd never done that before. I actually made green bean casserole. I haven't had that in 7 years now, and it turned out really well.
Did it?
What else did I make?
Because I hate green bean casserole. It's I can't stand it. But keep going. I like the stuffing.
Yep. I did homemade mashed potatoes. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do homemade gravy, but we did have to use package for that. But I ended up making a whole spread. We got some cranberry sauce, and so we invited the in-laws, and then her sister was able to come over because her 2 brothers were out of town. Okay, and everybody ate themselves into comas except I couldn't go to sleep because I had to work tonight. Yeah, and so I was so tired, my back was hurting me, but I cooked up a lot of food. Did you have sweatpants on? So much better than that stupid casino buffet that I spent so much money on last year.
It's funny because you say that. And there was, now this is a little bit ago, but at one point, because all I really want for Thanksgiving is the main things that I really, really enjoy are turkey, I love mashed potatoes, and I love corn, and, gravy and maybe. And we went through a series of 3 years in a row where we went to Tanya's mom's, then we were her dad's. Another year they're divorced.
Would she make a fucking salmon
fucking bullshit?
Yeah,
we had salmon and cod. Then we went to her dad's, and her dad, it was duck, which but it's so greasy. And none of them had mashed potatoes. Her mom had this weird beetroot shit, it was bad. And then even had a pumpkin pie, but it was made with aspartame and
real pumpkin.
It was awful.
Everyone knows you use the pumpkin filling in the can.
Yeah, that's all you do. And if you can't find it anywhere, just go to some homeless shelter, because that's what people always give, because nobody wants that around. So you end up 2 years in a row. Bullshit. And I said, every time, I got to the point where all I want is mashed potatoes and corn. And she told her dad that
she went to Boston Market.
Well, we had done that. So here we end up deciding we're going to go on a little bit of a trip, and we're going to go to the Hershey Lodge because we live near Hershey Park, Hershey Deal. And we get there. Bullshit menu. I said to Tanya, did you look at the menu? And she's like, no, I just figured they'd have they didn't have mashed potatoes or corn even there. So we went 3 years in a row. So after that, I was like, screw this. And we went for 3 straight years to Golden Corral for Thanksgiving. And we went there, and I had tons of mashed potatoes and corn. So that all comes to today.
That's not homemade mashed potatoes like mine.
No, I
make mine
know.
by hand.
I'm probably gonna make myself some mashed potatoes. I do have a pretty kick-ass mashed potato recipe. Not that it's that fancy, but I might make those. I said I might make these like bowls for myself. Tanya said that she wanted one, but she probably will ditch it. But that's not my dad card, because this kind of goes back, and I got that play where as I'm getting older, my kids are getting older, they start doing some wacky shit that I sometimes think, oh, yeah, I remember that. A lot of times it's not, because they do wacky shit. But I remember when I was in college, when I went to WVU, and I'd come home, it was the big thing. Everybody comes home for Thanksgiving, and it's like that whole play where you go out and you pick up guys, gals, and whatever. Well, my son last night said out of nowhere, "Hey, you can't use the car tonight." I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Not
Like
that I
your
was.
car?
Yeah, my car. And, me and my wife's car. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I think even at that point, I don't think I was planning, but I did start thinking I might go get a couple things for making something today. But I'm like, oh, well, what's going on? And he's like, don't worry about it. And then he walked away, and I'm like,
You just told me I can't use my car.
Yeah, and he's like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. What
So-
did you do?
So I come in, I have shit. And we were recording a bunch of things because it's Thanksgiving, and I'm the only one, it seems, me and you recording on Thanksgiving. So I end up where I'm there, all of a sudden, we're recording. I hear the phone ring in the other room, which pisses me off, but my wife answers, oh my God, comes running out. And I'm like, well, what's happening? And she, oh my God, Ray's been in an accident. And I'm like, oh, crap.
In
Well,
your
like,
car?
what? Yeah, in the car. I'm like, what do you mean? Is he okay? She's like, oh, no, he wasn't in the car. I'm like, what? The fuck are you talking about? Like, what? No, I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, I got to go. But we only have one car. So then she's calling an Uber. I didn't know what was happening. She wouldn't tell me. I didn't even know where he was. So I go down to my other son. I'm like, where was Rafe? What's going on? What's going on? And he's like, oh, why? Like, he has a date tonight. I'm like, oh, what do you mean a date? And he's like, well, he was on Tinder, and he ended up hooking up with some chick. And I guess what happened then?
Shanked.
Well, when they came, he ended up going to this girl's house, and he thought he didn't park the car. The car was in drive, and then he ran into the house, and then our car.
He was so excited that
Oh
he
yeah,
was finally going to get
I'm surprised he did.
forgot to
I'm
park
surprised
the
he
car.
still had pants on. He ran in, as he says, he ran into the house, and I think there was a play like this girl lives at home and her parents would, I don't know, but he said he ran in, the car was still, and the car drove in to their garage, went through their garage door, and that it's not good, and ended up really crapping up the car, but also ruined their garage door.
The garage door.
Yeah, so the big play, then I'm
Dial.
like, what the fuck? But then Tanya, I guess the dad might have been there, or came home and said that they're going to put it through their home and I don't know. I'm sure we're going to get a bill. I'm like, what the fuck? The car's all scared. And I'm like, what were you doing? He's like, oh, I was just kind of getting there quick.
Get some pink.
Like, you son of a bitch, like there. And I'm like, I'm not getting anything, and now I got to pay. And the night before Thanksgiving, and now they're off driving the car around now because they ended up where
Fucking bumper.
I said to you, I don't know if they were going to eat at our oldest son's house. Something went on that they changed up, and they might be at Golden Corral again. That seems
Without
to be
you?
our way. Yeah,
The
without
king of
me.
the mashed
I know, and
potatoes?
the first, and we did this a couple years in a row. It's funny, but the first year we did end up doing it. For some reason, it upset my wife so much that while we were eating, she
You
was
were at the Golden
she was
Trough.
she was crying the whole meal. She was so depressed that
When you go to the
we had
Golden
come to
Trough
that.
for
I
Thanksgiving,
know.
that means you don't like your wife's cooking.
Yeah, well, the problem is that she's never cooked a thing in her life. That's my cooking, but still, I mean, again, though, at points we have so many kids and so many things going on. But yeah, the first time, then the next couple times she did enjoy it, and then I said,
Yeah, you got
I've
the
had-
chocolate fountain.
yeah, oh yeah, and that's where I end up
can
where
do that.
my kids, especially Rafe again, ends up being that jerk off that's like putting his fingers in. I'm telling you, you can't. And he was mean to people. It wasn't a good thing. Every time we went, it was kind of a bad place. So then we got to the idea that I'm going to make the meal again. Me and my second oldest son, we ended up making a pretty good meal, but nobody really ate a lot. And then the next year they demanded Boston Market. We got Boston Market a couple years in a row, and then that closed down, and there was a lot of talk last night about Boston Market again. I said, "There's no Boston
Good old
Market
days.
around here. There's none around here." Then they heard that.
You need to go to a Luby's Cafe.
Well, that they ended up hearing that you could get a Cajun turkey from Popeyes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I don't. The Popeyes in our town,
Probably have to pre-order it.
well, yeah, and they came into town. People were like, "Oh, anything that's new," and everybody's there. So I waited. I went and got something, and I think it was just a sandwich. But when I was in line waiting for the sandwich, the guy who took my order was getting his hair braided by some other girl, and nobody was making my fucking sandwich. And it drove me. I won't go back now. I said, I'm not gonna. This guy's just getting these crazy ass braids and shit. I'm like, I just want my fucking sandwich, and then it took forever.
Disrespected you and your family.
Yeah. Only when I remember that was at the point too when people were like killing people for those stupid sandwiches. When that Popeye sandwich hit, those are the good old days with the sandwich.
All right,
wars.
Jim, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah,
How old is Rafe?
Rafe is 20.
All right. Would you be surprised to know that I also drove a car through a
Did
garage
you?
door once?
Here's the thing. I did
You got to ask me the
admit.
question, Jim.
Well, what happened and how did it happen?
How old
How old were you?
I was 5.
Okay, well there you go.
we pulled up to my aunt's house, and they have one of those, because we're in Missouri, there's a lot of tornadoes, so everyone's got a basement. And you go down the driveway, you take a left, and then you can turn into the garage, which is attached to the basement where your storm shelter is. And my mom went in to go see her sister, and she leaves me and my 2-year-old brother in the car.
Yeah.
He's in the back, like in his safety seat, and I was in the front. And so she goes in. Apparently, she's only going to be there for a few minutes. So I jump in the driver's seat, and she's still got the keys in the car. I don't try to start the engine. I just take the thing and I put it into neutral, apparently. And the car started rolling, and somehow, because if I had just went straight and didn't touch anything, I would have went into a ravine.
Oh, really?
I don't know if we would have made it. But
that would have
somehow
been bad.
I turned the car at the bottom of the driveway
Really?
and then turned it again to go right into where the garage was and made it perfectly, except for the garage door was down.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old, and I was sitting there, and I can still remember this. And you don't remember a whole lot of things when you're 5, but I still remember the door blowing open, and there's my mom and her sister jumping in there. And my mom blows the door open and is hugging me while my aunt is yelling very mean things at me.
Yeah. Again, I thought that you were going to tell me that your mom's spanking you, but really, if you might have gone in a ravine. That's crazy. Yeah. The way that this was explained, again, like I thought originally, okay, and he just left it on, like he didn't even turn off the car. But we have a keyless deal. I do that a lot. Like I think that I turn off the car and I run. But what happened is what screwed it is that it was like down, like this driveway was kind of a longer type of deal. So when he got out, he parked. Some of the things don't jive, but he parked a little bit away. So
he's lying to you, Jim. You know this.
He didn't hear it go into the garage, but he may have, and he was probably just like, well, what? I know. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think he just wanted to get laid. Like he was like, well, that already happened. Yeah.
But he's lying to you, Jim.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, he's been known to lie a little. He ended up at one point where he was doing like a delivery job, and our car got sideswiped. So he called up like he's a disaster in these cars, but he ends up it got sideswiped. So he tells the story. I'm a dummy. Like I'm not like CSI Jim here, but I went out and I'm like, nothing that he said. Like he said this car came from behind, but you could see that the scratches are the other way and the dent starts at the. I'm like, he's lying. I told Tanya, I said, I definitely think that he hit and ran somebody, but I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's, but he never told the true story, and nobody, I expected some cops to come knocking on the door at some point. They did not, thank God. So.
When I was in the military, once you make sergeant, you're going to be supervising some people, and you get promoted up. One time I was a master sergeant. Well, one time before I retired, I was master sergeant for several years, so I was a senior NCO. So a lot of times, once you're in charge, you got to hear a lot of stories
Yeah.
from other people's kids that are the same age as Rafe. And my bullshit detector was fabulous.
Well,
and I would sit them down, and I was like, okay, just tell me everything happened. And then we'd go through the story. I was like, are you sure? Are you absolutely certain
yes.
that
Yes,
this
at
is the
this one
story you
time.
want me to take to the first sergeant? Or would you like to tell me the truth?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
mean? I'm telling you the truth.
Whoa.
And then I would be like, well, there's actually 18 different holes in your story. Would you like me to open all of them for you?
Yes.
And then I would break it all down. And then, hopefully they would tell me the truth. They didn't. That's when you start the paperwork. And you're like, yeah, this guy's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
You might need to start getting him out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and, again, 5 kids. I have 5 boys. At this point, I don't believe anything anybody says. My wife used to get mad at me, even with our first and second kids, where the saying, and it would drive her nuts, is just like, I don't think we're getting the whole story. That's all I would say. And she would get so mad because she believes
She's
Rafe,
gullible.
everything she said. She's gullible.
Yes.
She is this
She
type
wants
of
to believe
person
everything.
that if she thinks that she doesn't believe him, that means she doesn't love him, and somehow she's like, all right. Also leads to them being able to do whatever they want, and not a good thing. So especially now, I mean, we have the 2 kids left in the house, and it's funny. I would say that they can't do anything wrong, but they can, and they do. She just looks the other way.
There's just no repercussions. There's
No, none at all.
expectations for anything,
There
right?
is no. I'm telling you, the things that they end up.
There's no standard, Jim. That's what it is.
My son Rafe, we're big football fans, both of us. He's a Cleveland Browns fan for some odd reason. But to get the Browns games, we need the NFL ticket. So each year, he says, hey, can we get the NFL ticket and I'll pay it back? He's never once paid it back. It's like 3
Never
years.
intended to.
And I say to him this year even, I said, why are you saying that you'll pay it back? And like, I'll get it for you, but I know you're, oh, no, I'm going to pay. And Tanya's mad. He's going to pay. He promised. I'm like, there is no fucking way. All of a sudden, with this
Why don't you
year,
just tell him, go down to Twin Peaks. You have a nice view, and you can watch the goddamn Browns game with everyone else.
Really? And
With your people.
Even there, we're like, he says at the one point where Tanya then is like, no, he will. And hey, Rafe, are you going to pay? And he just straight out does another lie and says, I never said that. Dad wanted it. I'm like, Dad wanted it? I watched the Eagles. They're on local. I don't need the ticket. I like the ticket. I don't mind it. I watch some other things, but that whole play, cool. I'm like, yeah, I watch that. I enjoy it. But again, I don't need your nonsense. But he does it all the time. What he's really good at is asking for money the day before he quits his job. When he asks for a bunch of money, you know that he's quit his job or is going to the next day. And Tanya always gives it to him. Oh, it drives me nuts. Right now he quit his last job again, and I see
again.
And I see this.
He was duped, and he had to go back for it back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The dupe job he quit now because he said they were mean to him. But again, it's because I blame my wife being nice. I know. So I see, and I never know, and I'm like, why'd you cash app Rafe $80? Oh, he needed his marijuana. I'm like, oh, did he? He needs a job. I'm like, this is insane, and that's what happened. So I found out that he quit. They don't tell me because I flip out, even though it doesn't do any good. But they don't like me flipping out, I guess. I don't get it.
And that's when you get sequestered, and they're like, "We're going to quarantine."
Yeah, that's when you end up not eating anything on Thanksgiving. Well, everybody's at the Golden Corral or wherever the fuck they are. Gets me so angry. But that's that.
Look at all those mashed potatoes. They're probably making castles out of mashed potatoes right now.
If they had that, and somehow they've turned it into a gravy freaking fountain, like there's no judge, it's just there with my mouth underneath. Yeah. I love mashed potatoes so much.
Just think of the mashed potato bowl you could make at the Golden Corral.
I know, it'd be awesome.
Your
Golden Corral sucks. I mean, nobody's going to tell me tenders. Like, oh yeah, that's the best though. And you talk about buffets are the best. I don't care if it's shit food as long as I get a variety and a bunch of it. But we actually have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, buffets in the country near our house. It's a Shady Maple buffet, and it's an Amish country deal, and they have some good food. And when I go there, holy crap, I eat. But then again, I start
Why don't you go there on Thanksgiving?
It's not open on Thanksgiving. I actually asked.
What you need to do. You need to.
I asked the one time. I know.
Place.
Yeah. Well, this
You need to go to
place.
Twin Peaks every Thanksgiving and leave the kids at home.
Yeah, just leave them at home. I love this buffet, and I do go with my two youngest. I have thought of going there by myself just to stick
would
it
do
to
it.
them because I just, it's so good.
Like, Dad, you look so full. What
Yeah,
happened
like,
to
oh
your
my God.
gut? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I was at Shady Maples.
They'd be
Like, why
so
didn't you
upset.
take us? It's like, I don't know,
they'd
you've been
be. It would
fucking
be
me over for
it
5
would,
years straight.
It would kill them. And yeah, I want to do it. I should. It actually is like 45 minutes away. I'm like, that's the one thing though. Rafe keeps crashing. He is good for after the buffet for him to drive home.
You can drive it. Yeah,
because
I can see that.
we both really, the three of us when we do go, we get a lot
That's
of
why
food.
you get a room at the Hojo, man.
Yeah, that's
Stay the night.
true. There is a hotel right near, but also they get mad
Probably
at me
get some
because
breakfast buffet in the morning.
yeah.
Sausage links,
It's
some
so good.
biscuits
You
and
should see
gravy.
this buffet. It's humongous. And then you have me screaming at them because of their picks of the deal and they don't know how to get buffet. I'm like, what? My son there starts off with rolls. I'm like, what are you eating rolls for? I get so mad.
That's filler, man.
That's
They're
what I tell
duping
them.
you.
I'm like, what are you doing? And then
It's
they
like
get
going
mad.
to the goddamn Brazilian barbecue. Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Where they have the salad bar. Like, this is the
Yeah,
greatest salad
fuck
bar ever.
that.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
They don't want you
yeah.
to know the filet mignon. man.
Exactly.
Get out
I'm
of
telling you,
here.
they even have this where it's set up that they really funnel you past like all of the bread. And I'm like, don't even look there. I try to tell them. You go right to the steak.
Fucking amateur hour, man.
Oh, it's so bad. Even then, like you say, if I went now, but I wouldn't normally eat mashed potatoes either because that's just going to fill me up. I'm a steak and more steak guy. Oh, it's great. They have just a
I said
station where they
Brazilian
just steak
barbecue.
this
It's
and that.
Brazilian steakhouse.
Okay, the
You
steak
got
stuff.
the little
yeah.
puck that goes green
Yeah,
and red.
yeah. Why would you eat a salad there? I'm like your
wow,
son. Like the idea.
Sesame seeds, cool.
Yeah, you said about the idea of your son, and you made BLTs, and he didn't want the L or the T. I'm with him. I end up where legitimately now I have to drink like a green drink because of how little I like any sort of vegetables or fruits. So I'm a meat guy. And it's killing me, but I do have those green drinks suck too. They're the worst. It's like you're drinking the bottom of a fucking aquarium. I get mad every time, and there's my wife. I do think, and I'm like, this sounds like I'm 90. I'm not that, but I feel that now because I'm there drinking. You better drink this green. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I get so
Your wife
mad.
takes care of you. She let you have gummy vitamins instead of real vitamins.
That is true. I have them right over here. I do have the gummy vitamins. But then again, I sit there and when I say that, everybody thinks in this house, like, oh, do you have the gummies? And they certainly do have gummies. They're not vitamins, though. They have that nonsense. And they're like, yeah, That's also the big discussion. Dad needs to get high sometime. I'm like, no, he doesn't. Yeah,
somebody here's got to be a sound
yeah,
mind.
somebody has to be. I said somebody has to, and again, somebody has to be the bad guy. Somebody has to not do the. It's bad. There's my dad corner. Every time I get depressed by the end, it's just nonsense. Now I want to go find a buffet. Fuck
Well,
them.
Jim,
I'm
you
going.
should definitely go eat your feelings, but I do want to mention to everybody, this has been like just a bonus episode that we're going to put up on YouTube as well, just to let you know what the Hot or Not podcast is all about. This comes out every Thursday on the podcast, exclusive to there. We have a whole lot of fun. We cover all the comic books that we've read this week, and we have a little bit of fun talking about our differences of life experience right now.
Yes. Yeah, and just to point out, I do see a lot of times, even when I'm on the aficionado show or not, the idea where there will always be somebody who pops in, even during the live chat or after, about the idea of Wes never liking anything. Oh, man, well, you don't like anything. Why do you not like anything? And also your best of the week. And this, I hope that does prove it to people that we do. And I get the crap as well. It's just, you don't fake the funk. If shit is bad, you're not going to say it's good, but
This is
are.
what it is, Jim.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube and you only watch negative videos, YouTube is only going to promote negative videos to you. If you only watch the stuff where I'm negative on something, it will only show you the stuff where I'm being negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah. And in that, I'll give a little, them problem as well. The idea that you end up reviewing something, like we said in things, sometimes things are mid. you don't have to yell about them or you don't have to cheer about them. Sometimes you're just reviewing them. That's where I'm running into the problem. I think on my channel is people are expecting these over-the-top reactions to every single thing, but some things are just what they are, and I try to do honest reviews as I'm going. And I don't know. Some people don't like that. They don't want honesty. They just want to hear their opinion reiterated, and that's not my thing either. So a little shout out there. It's been frustrating me like the last couple of weeks overall, but it's just what it is. But there you go. I got it off my chest. Stop it, people. Everybody arguing with me is what I'm saying. They're like, and it's you're too positive, and then the next comment I get is you're a negative asshole. Then it just keeps going back and forth. And I can't take it. And I can't take your advice. I end up engaging with everything, and it's not doing me well. So there you go. But I like doing this because there's always going to be things that we like, and it does kind of, change up the mood a bit.